Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Captain Logan Show. It is me, Captain Logan. Joining me, as always, is my wonderful chat moderator and DJ. And and producer. No, he's also the DJ.
Whoa.
He's scratching the records.
I don't have the capabilities to do that from my end.
Hello, DJ Martinez.
Hello, Captain Logan and the MC.
You know, the reason that I hired you for this job in the first place was so that I had a person whose role on the channel also was in his name, like doubled as his name. That was the whole point in the first place.
Yeah.
You guys thought that was a joke. You just never put it together before.
I fooled you. Yeah. And it got me the job anyway. See, lie on your resume, folks.
Everybody's like, what does DJ stand for? I'm like, disc jockey. What you, duh. Like, you didn't know that? Like, that's what it stands for. And also, tonight, we got my son, Jason.
Hello.
Jason is on all of our content this week, minus the request.
Yeah.
Although maybe I should have had you on that, too.
You should have had me there.
Because we're doing a video game thing, and... Or maybe not.
Wait, no. No, that's... Is that tomorrow?
No, that's tonight. We're doing that later
tonight. Okay.
So Austin and I, quick plug, just after tonight's show, about an hour afterwards, Austin and I are going to be reviewing the comic adaptation. This is a really weird request. The comic adaptation of Metal Gear Solid from 2005, published by IDW, a game that I'm not familiar with. I don't know that franchise at all. We've had folks for years trying to get me to play it. Now I've come the closest to doing that I've ever done. I looked at the comic version, and it was a really strange experience, and I don't know how much I'm going to have to say about that, and it's going to be kind of an odd video, but that's what we're doing later tonight. But anyway, tomorrow night, Jason and I, because Austin's going to be out of town, Jason and I are going to do a watch party together, and we're still kicking around between a couple of ideas, but have you, I was kind of letting Jason pick between a couple. Have you pretty much landed on it? Like, are we definitely going to do the Star Trek thing, or or are we still...
Yeah, I want to do the Star Trek thing.
So Jason is going to select some Star Trek episodes, and we're going to watch those together tomorrow night. So if you're at all interested in that, if you're inclined, pop in. We're probably going to start around 8 Central, maybe a little bit later. We'll let you know when we're a little bit closer to it. It won't be 10 like usual. It'll be earlier in the evening. Anyway, welcome everybody. Thanks a lot for being here. Thanks for watching after the fact if you're doing that. Tonight is a What If program. We haven't done this in about 9 months or so, and it's a thing I like to periodically do on the Captain Logan Show, so it's What If Part 5. Tonight, we're going to ask that all of your questions are asked in the what if format need to be what if statements like the themes of a science fiction story. What if X and Y happened, and we'll do our best to speculate about that. It could be past tense things, could be present tense things. The lead-in topic tonight is going to be a what if question. This is the thing I wanted to talk about anyway, and I thought I would kind of rope it into this. So we are going to do a lead-in, and then after that, everything's going to be what if. We got some what if questions from Patreon. If you want to make sure that your what if question is talked about on air, you can leave a super chat in any dollar amount. Guarantees that we will do that. And we're going to go ahead and jump just straight on into it. Oh, and of course you can leave regular questions in the regular questions. Not right. Nobody should leave a regular question. They should all be what if questions. But you can, and some of the patrons, by the way, didn't read the assignment. So we have a couple of questions tonight that are not what if questions. But they're worded in such a way where it's almost like they thought they were, you know what I mean? Where it's like, here's a slightly different sort of question, but nowhere does it say what if. So, you get an F, but we'll answer it anyway. But everybody actually watching live right now, try to make your questions what if questions, but you can leave a regular comment, I should say, with a what if question, and we'll get to as many of those as we can as well. It's not a rapid fire show, but we'll probably get to more questions than we usually do, or at least that's my hope. Yeah. So, leave us a bunch of them so that we have lots of material, and they can be about whatever you want them to be about. As always, superhero stuff, sci-fi things, pop culture stuff generally, but if you want to ask us about something weird and trivial in regular everyday life, we'll allow it. We'll allow it. Make sure to ping DJ Martinez at DJ Martinez or at DJ the DJ. He'll answer to any of these things and probably just about anything else. Upside down microphone man, that's a good one. Could be anything. We can't hear you, DJ.
Wow, I've been talking the whole time.
Oh, have you really?
Yeah.
I just kept going because I was really kind of wondering why you weren't jumping in, but yeah.
Oh, wow. Curse you, Mike. It's the last time. I pushed it like 3 times. It's getting real stubborn. I need a new mic.
It sounds like it. And you were having like headphone issues with it earlier? Like, yeah, you need a new microphone.
It is disrespecting me, and I can't have it. I won't have it.
DJ, let's go ahead and get right to the lead-in topic. And Jason, I thought you'd find this interesting as well. Did you see what the lead-in topic was?
No.
Before the show started?
The comments, I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
What I know what it is.
So there's been a rumor going around lately because of some stuff that Thomas Hayden Church has been saying, who of course played Sandman in Spider-Man 3, that Sam Raimi might be interested and even and even is actively hoping to make a Spider-Man 4. I don't know really just how true this is, but he keeps bringing it up, keeps talking about it. So this is rumor territory. So this is not a news topic so much as okay, if this happened, what would it look like? How would we feel about it? I didn't want to do like a full-on speculation cast on this because I reserve those for things that we know are actually going to happen. I think we've actually done speculation casts on things that ended up not happening, but at the point that we did the speculation cast, it was ostensibly news. So anyway, this is not like that. This is just a thing that is plausible, assuming that like Hollywood doesn't actually drop into the depths of the ocean like it looks like it could, metaphorically speaking. I guess physically that in the future is maybe also possible. A lot of science fiction predicted this in the 21st century, but I don't think we're quite, I don't think the writer's strike or the actor's strike is going to cause California to fall into the ocean. I don't think we're into Snake Plissken territory yet, speaking of snakes. Those are related snakes too. But anyway, so DJ, what is your immediate reaction to the idea of doing a Spider-Man 4 this far after Spider-Man 3? Where we bring back Toby McGuire, we have a mid-40s something Spider-Man. Would happen obviously because of the popularity and success of Spider-Man No Way Home. Is there any part of you that would want to see that now? Has the ship sailed too much? What is give us your knee-jerk, unadulterated response to that?
Well, this is because I was not prepared for this at all, and I just heard about the Thomas Hayden Church thing when you just said it, and I got a little sick in my stomach.
Good. Well, not good that you got sick, but good that you didn't know about it. I'm glad that we're gonna get your unfiltered reaction
Ah, oh. No, I mean, I would hate it. I wouldn't watch it. I don't care. But I'm sure a lot of people would be happy. And then I would have to hear them talk about that series more than I already do.
Oh, okay. So let me kind of pick your brain about it for a second. Then is that first of all, would you have felt similarly if Spider-Man 4 had actually happened back when it was supposed to happen? Like, is this partly because you don't like 3 and you were ready for that franchise to die, or is it because you don't like No Way Home and you don't like the reasons this would happen now?
No, not at all. I was like 14 or 15 when 3 came out. I didn't even know that it was like an abomination. Like, it was fine. I didn't like it as much as the first 2, but I didn't know it was like garbage. I just, it was like 3. I probably would have watched a 4 if they came out. I loved that series when they were out. Like, this is only in recent years that I'm not really a fan anymore.
Okay, sure.
So if it came, I mean, yeah, if it came out in 2009, I probably would have watched it. I'm just so far removed from it at this point.
Yeah. So you wouldn't want it now because you don't like that franchise as well, and like, does it have anything to do with I'm sure some of it is also No Way Home too, though, right? Like,
no, I mean, I don't know. That didn't get me excited for a 4 like I think like it did for a lot of people, but it didn't make me any less interested in that trilogy.
Okay.
It was just kind of like, okay, I watched it. But no, yeah, like I don't know. I'm just not interested in going back, and I mean, I think that's probably where we're leading. That seems like the next big thing. We've brought them back for like a team up movie. And now everyone's trying to do that, and it's not really working for anybody else. So I guess the next big thing is to do our first, like, decades later superhero sequel, which we haven't really done. I mean, we did Logan, but he never left. He was always there.
Yeah, we did Flash with Batman '89. That's the kind of the closest, but it wasn't really his movie. It was sold like it was his movie.
Yeah. So I guess yeah, this is probably the new trend. But I'm not going to be too upset about it if it happens. Like, I'm so like, I didn't even watch Flash. I didn't watch Ant-Man. I'm so out of the loop right now. So it's not hot. I'm not hot anymore. I'm not like back in the old days where we could get ourselves all worked up about it. But yeah, I wouldn't be too excited about it. But I know there would be a lot of people who are excited about it. So I hope it's if it does happen, I hope it's a good movie for them.
What do you think about that, Jason?
I mean, I think it could work, but I don't think it could work. I think there's like a 30% chance of it working.
Oh, he's breaking it down. It's like ESPN.
I don't know. I think it could be fun, but I don't think it would be very good.
And I also didn't see his Doctor Strange movie.
Which is great.
Yeah, which we really liked, and most everyone on the planet thought it was terrible.
Yeah, it's probably my favorite MCU movie by now, but I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, getting into
that might make a few people mad.
Real quick, getting into the what if. Yeah, your favorite?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not going to go that far, but getting into the what-ifness of it for a second, I think the response that a lot of fans would have would be, it'd be kind of split down the middle, where you'd have people that were like, boo, that Doctor Strange movie was terrible, and so we don't really want to see Sam Raimi like messing with anything now. Like, maybe he's just done. He's not good anymore. And then I don't know if it would be half and half. I'm not going to do the percentage split that Jason just did. I'm not going to be the ESPN commentator on this, but I think you'd have some people that would feel that way, and then you have some people that, even if they didn't like Doctor Strange 2, would go, yeah, well, he's back in his element. This is what he should be making. This is what we've been wanting forever. And then I think you'd have a lot of people that would say that would only want it if Sam Raimi was the one making it.
Yeah, which is probably me, too.
If McGuire's not there, and if Dunst isn't there, and if Raimi's not there, what is the point? Sort of like Beetlejuice 2, where, like, if you don't have that director and that actor, what is even the point? and they are both coming back, so that will give some credibility to it for some other people. There's other things actually with that project that gives it more credibility for people now because they like Wednesday, and she's the main character, and they're kind of producing it exactly like that show because it's the Smallville creators doing that also. So that's lending that some credibility. Not to change the subject or anything, but I think that movie actually will probably be successful because of the team behind it.
Yeah, no, that's great. But yeah, I don't know. I guess I also don't care as much because I have the Spider-Verse movies. So I'm like, as long as Sony keeps making those, they can do whatever other crap they want to do with Morbius or Craven. I don't care. I got the movies I care about, and I don't. If I had like nothing, like if I was in a dearth like you are with Star Trek, then I might be a little more upset about that. But since I got good Spider-Man movies, I'm happy. I'm okay. Even though those come out once every 5 years because they're crazy to animate.
See, I actually have almost the opposite response for the very reason you just said, DJ, because yes, we've got Spider-Verse, and I love those. The third movie has been put on indefinite hiatus, not super surprising or shocking or anything, given the state of Hollywood right now and the strikes, and there's no clear end in sight to all of that. A lot of projects we've been hearing, they're put on hold. That's the first one that I've heard indefinite hiatus, which suggests, I don't know if I've talked about this yet, which suggests that it was not very far along in production at all, probably. And that even though that was supposed to come out like less than a year from now, they were like probably already, rushing and struggling really hard to even get that out remotely by the date. A lot of people thought it was probably going to get pushed off anyway.
I think it would have got pushed off even if there wasn't a strike, because it's just a behemoth to animate and stuff.
So I say that to say, we're going to have to wait a while, probably a long while now on that, which is sad because I loved 2, and I think I liked it even more than the first movie. And then it's... I'm sorry, I'm distracted by sounds upstairs.
You got a whole school up there.
So we got it, yeah. And you're not even exaggerating at this point. Yeah, that's our whole plan. Really, when my wife and I started having children, was not to have a family, but was to have a colony. Really.
Yeah, Cap is so not happy with the public school system that he's just going to start his own.
Right, I'm going to start my own public school system. Yeah, that's exactly. I'm going to have my own government. We're gonna buy an island. We've actually been looking into prices of islands.
Oh, okay,
because there are private islands that are actually a lot cheaper to buy than you might expect, that are not that far away from what a house would cost. Like, weirdly, islands not as far out of my price range as you might expect. Now
you at least need a Northampton farm that you can all go
to. Yeah, which is more realistic. But some of these islands,
not as cool.
Not super outside of the realm of possibility. The problem is they're remote enough. You'd have all these extra expenditures of getting stuff out there.
That's true.
That would be very difficult.
Didn't think I'd be talking about you moving to an island that wasn't related to a what-if question this evening.
Yeah, what if we moved to an island? Yeah, I probably wouldn't be doing this anymore. We have to spend exorbitant amounts of money to get Wi-Fi going. Yeah. Anyway, I'm sorry. What were we talking about? So you've got Spider-Verse, and those are wonderful, but it's going to be a good long time before we're going to get another one. It makes you wonder, if this happened, how long it would be before it happened. Like, how old is Toby McGuire right now? He's got to at least be in his
75.
He's got to be at least 45, 47.
I can do that.
Right? Can you look that up real quick?
I'm not a DJ, but I can Google.
So, I mean, the man could be pushing 50 by the time he's playing Spider-Man again.
Yeah, he's 48, so yeah, he would definitely
be. So he absolutely would be. He'd be 50 playing Spider-Man, which could be cool, depending on the story they decided to tell, because you could, the first place, and I'm going to be predictable when I say this, but the first place that I would go if I was doing, decades later, Spider-Man 4, would be, okay, he's got his daughter, she's Spider-Girl now, he's a cop, you do the whole Marvel 2 Mayday Parker Spider-Girl thing, and even in that continuity, I think that would get me more excited for a Spider-Man 4. The reason I say that I have almost the opposite response from you, DJ, is Spider-Verse notwithstanding, especially because we don't have, in my mind, a great Peter Parker series going on right now. I would actually take this over nothing with the villain side, the villain shared universe without Spider-Man, and the MCU Spider-Man, which I no longer have that much interest in. Like, hopefully their fourth movie is cool and brings me back around and I care again, but like, I don't like the status quo set up at the end of that. I really didn't care for No Way Home overall. I liked it better than DJ, but that's not saying a lot. And I've lost interest in really the MCU at large, but even that, and that was one of the last vestiges where I was like, okay, at least we've got good Spider-Man. Even if I don't love Far From Home, like, it felt like a side thing. There's still lots of cool places you could go. It didn't ruin anything, and No Way Home, yeah, sort of did. I'm not saying you can't come back from it, but I don't trust it at this point. So weirdly, I'm actually kind of for this, which I'm really surprised that I'm saying, but I'm kind of sort of for it. Partly because I want to see what Raimi would do with it at this point in his career. I feel like it would be very, very different for obvious reasons, just because you'd have such an older Spider-Man, but also because I think he'd probably like get the reins back harder maybe in coming back, and he'd not be coming off of a project that didn't work. Like, I think a Spider-Man 4 that happens now has a better chance at being really good than a Spider-Man 4 that comes out after Spider-Man 3.
That's fair.
That's part of why I'm more interested in it than I was Spider-Man 4. I did not care about Spider-Man 4. I didn't want that to happen. Because I thought that Spider-Man 3 screwed the pooch so hard that we were just kind of I was very much over that franchise, and I didn't see it really coming back in a big really good way. I actually think that could work. I don't know that I need a ton more after that, but I think like coming back and doing one more could potentially be cool. As much as usually these decades later the sequel things don't work, this is a case where I'm more intrigued than I probably ought to be, and also because I know not everybody agrees with this. I was really surprised and impressed with McGuire's performance in No Way Home. That was one of the few things that I was actually really surprised and happy with. And if he had that same level of charm and kind of soberness that he did in that movie, it might be interesting to see him come back. So yeah, I'm much more. I certainly would see it, even if I wasn't doing the channel. I certainly would go.
Yeah. This is a weird conversation. I'm having like a realization as I talk about this with you that's kind of depressing. I didn't realize how disenfranchised I was with my favorite superhero until we just talked about it. Like,
sure.
I'm like, all this, like, as I'm talking about this, I'm like, man, they have really killed my joy for this character, because I'm not even paying attention to what they're doing with like the Kraven stuff. Like, I'm not excited about this. I kind of forgot about MCU Spider-Man. Like, I kind of forgot he was a thing. Like, I'm so out of it. Like, and I love the Spider-Verse movies, but I don't even think of them as like comic book movies. Like, those are like so their own thing. I don't know. That's just like a new kind of cinema. It's just like this thing in my head, I guess, that I don't think of as like just regular comic book movies. So I guess I don't think of them as Spider-Man movies because they're so different. They're like they're Spider-Verse movies. They're not what I come to Spider-Man for, but I still like them for what they are. So I don't know. Yeah, I guess my spider soul is dead inside right now. Hopefully, I mean, who knows? My wife likes those Raimi movies. My kids are not quite old enough yet, but I'm sure I will show them those at some point. Maybe I'll get back into them, and maybe it'll be perfect timing for me to watch this one. Who knows? Anything can happen. I don't know.
Who's the villain?
So,
Rocket Racer.
It's certainly a big wheel. It certainly wouldn't be any of the villains that they were dealing with, or that they were, trying to adapt for the original Spider-Man 4 when that almost happened. So like, it wouldn't be Vulture at this point. We've done that already. I would
finally get a Black Cat, maybe.
So I was going to say Black Cat would almost certainly be there, but she's not going to be your main villain for a movie, and I don't even think it would be Silver Sable. I don't see Spider-Man 4 : Silver and Black in our future. It's probably not what it would be. I also don't see Carnage, because we did Let There Be Carnage. Like I think Sony,
because we adapted him so perfectly already, we don't need to see it again.
Yeah. Yeah, when you get it that right, there's really no point in messing around with it again. Even for an alternative version, because all anybody would do is compare it to the original.
I know it's so hard for you to make this joke right now because it hurts you so bad.
Yeah, no, it is a little bit painful. Yeah. In fact, it makes me so insane and mad and dead inside that I think they should cast me as the character. But anyway, realistically, what villains do I think they'd be most likely to go to? Because I think Sony would stay away from anything they've done very recently, or maybe even ever at all. I don't think you'd have the Warner Brothers thing that Gunn has been talking about, where they're not going to be that worried about doing villains that the Batman is doing. Like when they have two separate Batman continuities, we might see some crossover with different versions of villains. I don't think that would happen with this, especially because they've got the multiverse thing. They probably want to keep the door open to cross again if they wanted to, although that could be a reason to do it, but I don't think that they would think of it like that. I think it'd be like, for the sake of synergy and in business, they'd be like, we got to go to things that we haven't done before, which, is certainly fine, but I don't need to see they're not going to do another version of Mysterio or something. They won't do another Kraven, I wouldn't think. So who are they likely to go to, regardless of what I want? Moreland is very, very plausible, and I don't want that, but I think that's real plausible.
Mr. Negative.
Oh yeah, actually, that's a really good call, given the popularity of the PS1 Spider-Man game. I wouldn't have even thought of that. I think that's actually really likely. Some version of the Tinkerer
stuff
for almost the same reason with the Miles Morales game. Maybe the Tinkerer.
So we are getting some super chats specifically about this topic. You want to go jump to those? Before
Yes,
we get into
absolutely. Let's do that. As always, I spent too long on the lead-in topic, but we'll go ahead and talk about those super chats, and then we'll get into what if questions, because I'm sure these won't be what if, but then we'll get into the what if questions. So yeah, go right ahead, sir.
All right, so we got one from J Forever King, $5. What if Spider-Man 4 is the tone of Logan and it's a movie about grief and death?
Yeah, I'd be totally down with that. I think it would be really refreshing, actually, to see that dark of a Spider-Man movie. And I don't mean to say everything's better because it's dark. I just mean you can go to those places with Spider-Man, and there's certainly a place in between it, where you don't have to change the essence of the character and what he's all about. We arguably did some with the Superman, with the Snyder movies, like we've done some with New Track and all of that. It would also be a really nice contrast with Spider-Man 3, which should have been a legitimately darker movie and ends up just coming off as unintentionally funny, or maybe in some cases intentionally funny because the movie's kind of trolling itself.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, go ahead, DJ.
No, I was just going to say, that was the big defense that Raimi came out and said, no, it was supposed to be funny when he's being the black costume. Oh, okay.
Yeah, that doesn't make it
better.
That doesn't make it better, because that's not what I, as a black costume fan, would want. Yeah, you want to really get into some pathos with that character.
Yeah, it's supposed to actually be turning him evil.
Some honest to God, some inner darkness, man. Bring out what's really there. Ask the question: how much of it is from the costume, and how much of it is the guy himself, and the ways in which he's unhappy with the world and is
because Raimi's argument was he doesn't know this is what he thinks a cool guy would do. This is what he thinks a bad boy would do. But it's but it's not. It shouldn't be what he thinks. It should actually be changing him. He punches Mary Jane in the face, so it's actually changing him. Why does he? It doesn't fit. I don't know how that's an argument for it.
And there's a degree of character regression because Spider-Man typically loses some of that embarrassing nerdiness he has in high school as he gets older and matures and gets a serious girlfriend and fights crime and gets people killed and all of those regular everyday things we all deal with. And I would argue that even the movie version seemed to be sort of moving in that direction.
Yeah.
Getting over that a little bit.
Sorry, you did you have thoughts, Jason? I interrupted you.
No, not really. I mean, I think if it was, I think if Spider-Man 4 were like a darker kind of tone movie, I think it would be fun. I still haven't seen Logan, so like,
So you can't compare it to that.
being as dark as Logan, I don't know.
Yeah.
It being as violent as Logan, heck yeah. But
And I would just love to see it made a little bit more of a, for lack of a better term, you know, kind of art film like that, because that's a thing that we haven't really attempted outside of Logan. With franchises like this, where you come back and you make an understated, not franchise movie that isn't necessarily for everybody. And then Logan ended up being very accessible while not being all that concerned with being accessible. That's one of the things I love about that movie.
Yeah.
It gave me a little bit of hope for people, where it's like, oh, folks are appreciating this, and it's pretty understated. Relatively, anyway. Should it be called Spider-Man 4?
no.
Spider-Man, Brand New Day.
Superior Spider-Man. Okay, moving right along.
Mr. Cool 210. He says he's on
I
vacation.
Oh, well, I hope you're enjoying your vacation. Are you in a pool right now? Are you listening to us while drinking pineapple daiquiri floating in a pool?
Gives us a $10 super chat. I'd be down if Spider-Man 4 introduced Miles. I feel Miles would be more interesting in the Raimiverse over the MCU. Peter having to mentor a new hero when up till now he was the only one.
I strongly disagree with that, honestly, because I just feel like we've been we've been there, done that with so much stuff lately with Spider-Man.
Yeah,
it seems like we can't do Spider-Man without Miles. I'm actually fine with introducing him in the MCU, partly because it was very much foreshadowed in their first movie with what's his name, Davis with the Prowler.
Yeah.
Who gets a cameo in that movie, and that seems like the place to do it. It would really kind of scream, we're not allowed to do Spider-Man without this character anymore, and I don't love that. Nothing against Miles Morales fans, and I like that character some too, but Peter Parker is still, you know, Spider-Man to me, and I still wish Miles Morales had a different superhero name. He's not Spider-Man. He's another character with spider powers that is perfectly, you know, cool and worth existing, and it can, you know, on his own, and he's got the better Spider-Man movies now, so kudos to that character, I guess. Because earlier, DJ, when you said, like, they don't even really feel like Spider-Man movies to you, I totally see where you're coming from in saying that, and yet, to me, they're also, you know, I'm kind of conflicted with that idea, because they're also the most, like, thematically and attitude-wise Spider-Man things we've gotten.
Yeah, they definitely feel like Spider-Man movies to me. That's not the right word. I'm just saying, like, for whatever reason, when I just, like, think about those movies and their relationship in the ether, they don't seem like other comic book movies to me, because they're so unique and like their own thing. So, but they definitely feel like Spider-Man movies. I don't know. I'm having a hard time explaining what I mean, but like,
no, you're good.
They're just, I don't think of them as just like, oh, here's another comic book movie coming out. Like, those are kind of events for me that are different.
Mutale says he is the ultimate Spider-Man. Yeah, in Ultimate, it made sense that he was calling himself that. And I wouldn't be saying that character is not Spider-Man. He's a replacement Spider-Man. It becomes a mantle that is passed. But when he's around at the same time with a Peter Parker that is alive, he's not Spider-Man. I don't even like that we're calling John Kent in DC Spider-Man or Superman right now. We certainly shouldn't be calling him Spider-Man, but I don't like that we're calling him Superman at the same time that his dad's alive. We have two Supermans. It seems like, I mean, come on, DC. If Marvel jumps off a bridge, do you have to do it? Like,
yeah, in the real world, we have to put Junior at I'm a third. I can't just go around calling myself the exact same thing as my dad and my grandpa. There's legal issues. There's problems.
Yeah, that's a great point.
We gotta separate and distinguish them some way. No, I actually agree with what you're saying, Mr. Cool. Like the premise of it, like, yeah, it would be cooler if he had like a sidekick in the Raimiverse, because there's no other superheroes. I understand with that. It's just like Cap said, that he's been in everything lately that I can't get excited about it. But
he should have a sidekick, and her name should be Mayday Parker.
Yes, in a baby sling.
No, no, she should be 16 years old, and she should be a superhero all by herself.
Should look like the cartoon babies at the beginning of Flash as they swing around.
Oh man, I don't need PTSD tonight.
He throws Mayday in a microwave for a minute while he
it dings
for some
nonsensically because it's not plugged in. When I say you should have a sidekick, I would want that movie to open with she's being Spider-Girl, he doesn't approve of it. That's the status quo with that character, and then ultimately he begrudgingly. Well, you can actually do it either way. He can be cool with it or not. I think in the comics
ultimately he dies, and they put a big S out of wood.
It's a spider. There's webbing all over the casket, all over the placard.
Well, you can't tell it's a spider until Mayday turns it, and it's a spider.
Oh, I see. It's a spider. Yeah, it's just a giant form in the Raimi Spider-Man font. This is really confused branding. Was he a member of the Fantastic Four?
Well, didn't we mention...
She doesn't put flowers on his grave. She puts a bag with slits in the eyes on the grave.
Oh, man.
Okay, we're half an hour in. We gotta get past this topic. Yeah, I'm sorry, what was that, DJ?
No, I'm just saying it writes itself. We're also spoiling things for Jason, so let's move on.
So, Jason, I don't know if you know this, but at the end of Logan... somebody turns a thing that's got a 4 on it, and then somebody puts a paper bag on. None of that happens. DJ, any other super chats or comments that you want to read about this topic before we get into some more what if?
There are others technically related to Raimi Spider-Man, but they are phrased in what if, so we might be able to move forward.
Okay, yeah, let's jump around with those then. Let's go to Patreon.
All right, here we go.
If you would like to ask questions for the show because you can't be here, or because you want to try to dominate and ask me more questions for a single show, you can go to, but only ask one on Patreon, okay? You can go to patreon.com/geekvolution, and monthly I put out a request for questions, and then we pepper them through the month. That's how we're doing it now. If we run out, I'll ask again, and we'll get some more. We'll try to do Patreon questions every show. And tonight we're going to do more than we usually do, because we're going to try to answer everything that was asked in a what-if statement. And I think we got some 6 that actually followed the rules anyway, and then a couple more that didn't. So those people get dunce caps, but we'll still answer their questions. Go ahead, DJ.
All right, I think we've got one similar to this before, but Sakib, what if you swapped minds for a day like Freaky Friday?
Yeah, I think that might have been in the last What If show.
I think so. I don't know if Freaky Friday specifically was mentioned, or if it was more like what's that one with Ryan Reynolds and...
Oh, I don't know.
Man, what is that other movie? It's been done a million times, but yeah.
This happens a lot, yep. And it's one of those genre things.
Jason Bateman.
If you have sorry, what?
Sorry, it's Jason Bateman. Is the guy who switched places with Ryan Reynolds.
But you still don't know the name of the film.
It's some stupid name. I think it's called like The Change Up or something. It's the worst title.
If that's what it's called, that's pretty crappy. Yeah. So, of course, when you have genre shows, high concept things that go on for very long at all, there's almost always a body switch episode. So yeah, everything does this. The Tick's got a really fun one. The one of the Tick is called in the animated series, DJ, is called The Tick versus Science, which is a great title for an episode. Anyway, if it happened, I can give us a slightly different answer than we would have had last time because Jason's here. So if it happened right now in this moment, somebody would get to keep their brain. You know, that's how math works. So like me and DJ might switch, but then Jason's still stuck with himself. Or me and Jason could switch.
Or we go in the circle, yeah.
Yeah, we go round robin. Our brains.
Oh, I guess that would work.
Yeah.
Okay, well this is why I don't teach math. No, I'm an idiot. I didn't even think of that. Yeah,
so
I guess that could work.
I'm DJ.
Right, and then I'm you, and then DJ's me.
Jason, and I'm Kat.
Yeah.
I like
That's
movies.
still not the most embarrassing thing that I've ever said.
I'm suddenly excited about the Raimi 4 movie.
I like movies.
I still can't do math.
Wait, you do not normally like movies?
No, that's just all you talk about. No.
I just massively insulted you and you totally missed it.
No, I totally missed it because I just insulted DJ. So.
Okay, do it again. Do it again.
Everyone's insulting everyone.
What?
Do it again. Yeah. Say the, because you're DJ now. So say the thing that you said for DJ.
Oh, I like movies.
I still can't do math.
That's pretty good. It's pretty good.
Because I got you, right?
Yeah, you got me.
Yeah. Well, we both kind of struggle a little bit with math.
Right. I don't struggle that much with math.
Anyway,
I don't.
You can count 3 brains.
I love how he wasn't even bothered by that. It's not like, Dad, you're not supposed to make fun of me like that. He's like, nuh-uh.
I just disagree. That's good. That's a good way to be, Jason. Don't let your dad mentally
I'm
abuse
not
you.
that bad at math.
I think if I switched brains with, if I switched with DJ and I was like stuck as DJ, I would clutter up his house in a way he and his wife would not like. That's the thing that would happen. And
yeah, I suddenly have a compulsion to buy pop figures.
Well, I mean, there's a priority
and
list.
Statues.
That's not as far up there as something
as it used to be.
Now you might
Things
think
changed.
that I would rearrange your movies, but I wouldn't have the heart to. Because the color thing is so unique and interesting, I would adopt it. Is what would happen.
Well, I've been wanting to do that.
Whereas if you were me, I know you'd come back here and you'd F it all up. Like,
I
wouldn't actually, because it wouldn't matter because they're all purple.
Well, you can turn the light off.
See, I've been wanting to do that.
Then I'd be ruining Geek Illusion.
Okay, see, we have too much respect for each other for this to be a fun and interesting topic.
I would like to see how long I could go. I'd start incorporating things that I don't say, like, what are some expressions? This is where I need that list of capisms that everyone always mentions in the comments.
Oh yeah, we should probably make a list of that. That like things that you say. That...
Yeah, well, I know ostensibly is up there. I get made fun of for using that word too much. Yeah, there's certain like turns of phrase that are standard that I think are really standard in the culture even today that people make fun of me for going back to and using. Figures of speech.
What are things that you say?
If
I can never think of them when I'm trying to think of them, but when I'm not, I'm like...
You guys will be hypersensitive to it, so through the rest of the show, I'll say one, and you'll be like, it's like that one!
We'll be like the guy from Once Upon a Time, and we'll be from... What's his name? I can't think of anyone's name tonight. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. The whole meme thing. Whatever it is. Who cares? Move on. The moment has passed.
Tarantino?
I can't think of the actor. All I can think of is Brad Pitt, but it's not Brad Pitt. It's the other one.
I haven't seen that movie, and I want to. I just keep forgetting to go back to that. I don't see a lot in the theater anymore, and then when stuff comes out, I don't think to watch it because I don't stream as much stuff as I used to. But Jason, this won't mean anything to a lot of other people, but I noticed this in the trailers for that movie. For Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, which is set in what, the 60s?
Yeah, I think so. Around the Manson time.
It has the guy who played Simon Tarses in it.
Simon Tarses from
Drumhead. The 1/4 Romulan.
Oh.
Yeah, that guy has continued acting, and he's got like more than tiny bit roles now. Like he shows up and stuff. Anyway. So if I switched places with Jason right now, the first thing I would do is get out some markers and color in my T-shirt. That shirt drives me crazy. It's just begging to be colored.
Cap is really not a fan of black and white artwork. He wants to color my shirt too, Jason.
I like black and white artwork. It's when it looks like it wants to be colored. Like shade it in.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would love
to
wore
my
be
Marvel
13
shirt
again, in certain ways.
Well, I mean, when you
it would be fun to be you, just to more than vicariously live out part of my childhood again. I guess there's some things about that.
See, if you switch brains with me, you'll just immediately go on a laptop and start looking at every single Wikipedia page. And I'll just
that's what you'll do.
Yeah,
no,
that's what.
Switching bodies wouldn't make us the other person.
Right, but switching brains is. Oh, I thought it was switching bodies.
Right, it's a body switch thing. Yeah. It's not like I would become you,
Oh.
right?
You just said swap minds. That's
Swap
all.
minds.
Yeah, mind swapping.
Mind swapping.
Yeah, that means I'm in your body now.
Different from mind sweeping.
Okay, can we move on? Can we do another?
Sure.
Because yes, we have answered this before, which is why I'm not giving a real, insightful response. Go ahead.
That's what we're known for here. Long responses, not insightful responses. Where are we here?
I don't promise much of anything really, except a response. I'll say something.
Hey, under promise, over deliver. That's the mission statement.
We need that on a t-shirt.
Mutale, I'm going to go straight to the super chats now, and then we'll come back to the Patreon. Good gracious, that was loud. What if Singer adapted House of X, Powers of X?
If Singer adapted it, well, it all has to do. It all depends on what who's writing the script, more than anything, right? I would expect it to be certainly a dumbed down version of that. All things being equal, if Singer was still in Hollywood and could direct movies, I think that's a tall order no matter who does it, because that's such a lengthy, complex story. I don't see how you do that in 2.5 hours. Anyway, you could do something real loosely based on it, I guess, where you can have the initial status quo of Krakoa and splitting off the mutants to their own domain and living apart and all of that. I do like the idea, and I think Singer would have handled this fine. Potentially, well. And then he made Apocalypse, and didn't trust him at all after that. The man seemed to have lost his mind somewhere around Days of Future Past. And also, I used to give him too much credit for Days of Future Past because a lot of that story was not really him. Was kind of in place before he got there. It sounds like. So you have to credit. I'm sorry, names aren't coming to me right now either, DJ. The guy that directed the first one. Yeah, Vaughn. You have to credit Vaughn for some of Days of Future Past.
Yeah, that sucks.
If memory serves, I think that was what happened with that. But then, I don't know. I have a lot of these things I have to keep in my brain. But then, I would think if you had if you had something based on House of X, not House of X, but the whole Powers of 10 thing, you'd have a really interesting dynamic with a Professor X, whether it was McAvoy or Stewart, that has kind of given up on his dream. And in doing that as a later sequel to Days of Future Past, that could be really sad and tragic and interesting, because that is partly what that whole thing is about, where he finally kind of gives into Magneto to a degree. Like, they compromise. They're not trying to rule over humans, but he gives up on peaceful cohabitation, and they just go off on their own.
Mutale said who's writing.
And they kind of... Well, it's Kinberg, then all bets are off with that too. But yeah, who knows if that would be any good? But I wouldn't write it off on principle. I think there are cool directions in that, even in that franchise, that you could go with that. It might have to be the last thing you do.
All right, next one is from Mr. Cool. $5 super chat. Yo, good to see you, Cap.
You too, sir.
What if Toby McGuire remained as Spider-Man, including in the MCU, like him appearing in Endgame, etc.? Ooh, that would have changed the whole MCU if he was the start of it.
Yeah, so you would have you'd either be living in a universe, DJ, where MCU and Sony Spider-Man were already in the same universe in the first place, where they got the rights issues dealt with, in the first place. Like, when Iron Man came out, like, somehow they were already in the same universe, right? And at least before Avengers. Or you would say, because you remember, Spider-Man was supposed to be there as early as Avengers, or at least was supposed to exist in the universe as early as Avengers. There was supposed to be like an Oscorp building in that movie, and they still couldn't come to an agreement with Sony that early, and so we didn't get it until Civil War. But it almost happened that early. For folks that aren't aware of that. Anyway, I don't know if you knew that.
I did not know that.
But that almost happened. Or it could have been a retroactive thing where we retroactively rope them in once we get the rights. Like, let's say, DJ, that we had a Spider-Man series that was successful, popular, past Spider-Man 3, just kept going. They never rebooted. There was no reason to. It was like Fox X-Men, right? Yeah. It stayed popular enough. They kept doing it, or when there was a pitfall, they still came back and tried again, like they almost did with Spider-Man 4. Even though that movie wasn't commercially successful, I don't remember how much money it made, but people were still, enough on board with the 4 that could have worked, and it almost did. And so if that had been good and kept going, you could have had a 5, 6, 7 as MCU was happening. So I would think that if we hadn't rebooted into Amazing, and you didn't have the whole fiasco that happened with that it actually is somewhat realistic to think that you wouldn't have had a rebooted Spider-Man, but that you would have retroactively roped it in. I mean, there's not too much that really contradicts those movies from being in the MCU. I think retroactively it'd be pretty easy to say they were, except you'd have to say that you'd have to either ignore that one throwaway Doctor Strange line, or you would have to put him in earlier and not do an origin story for him. But it would be pretty easy to write to write that out and just not even think about it, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, if we're comparing it to the X-Men movies, they could do pretty much anything.
Yeah, we don't even know how certain characters come back to life. Who cares?
I'm sick to my stomach again with this conversation.
DJ, so my question to you then is, if that had happened, would it... I guess it's really hard to say because we don't know what the quality of those movies would have been. We don't know what stories they would have told or any of that. Let's say all things are equal and it stays popular and people like it. You'd have an older Spider-Man. He'd be in his 30s. But do you think that it would have been successful? You think it would have worked out? Could we have taken Toby McGuire and put him in the Avengers movies and all of that? Not that I want Spider-Man to be an Avenger, but that's what they would do. Even with him, if he had been in that continuity, I'm sure they still would have had him involved in Infinity War and Endgame and all of that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure it would have been successful. Everyone likes that version. I don't know that there was anything particularly... I don't know. It's tough because I was going to say I don't know if there was anything particularly special about the MCU version that made him popular, but he does kind of fit into the MCU because he's young. He's supposed to be younger, so it would have been a whole different dynamic. It wouldn't have been he wouldn't have been the mentor. It wouldn't have been the Tony Stark mentor thing.
Not at all.
And I don't even know, would it change the whole MCU? Would it be a Toby Maguire, Robert Downey? Would they be the heads instead of Captain America? I'm scared to think of what would happen if he was there from the beginning.
Yeah, if he was there from the beginning, I think one of two things would have happened. Either he would have largely existed in a world on his own, and then when you have big event movies, he would show up and hopefully just kind of be a loner. But I think at some point they probably would have roped him into the Avengers. But I don't think that it would have necessarily precluded your Iron Man, Captain America thing, just because that's still very much from the comics, and back then we cared more about actually adapting from comics. So I kind of think that could have still stayed intact. If you didn't have it from the beginning and it was retroactive, obviously that would have still been there, and it would have worked out fine. My worry, actually, now that we're talking about it, I hadn't had this thought before, is we would treat Spider-Man with almost too much reverence, because he'd be the first superhero.
Yeah.
That'd be a worry I would have about that, where we'd go, you don't. In fact, you'd have that with Spider-Man instead of Iron Man. So
yeah, that's what I'm worried. That's what I was getting at. Is that's what we always do with movies. The actor and the history always takes precedence over the character. Like
it's too
like,
meta.
it doesn't make sense with this character, but whatever. He's really famous and he's been here since the beginning, so he has to be giving everyone orders and stuff. Like he would be the leader of the Avengers. It would be terrible.
It's kind of cynical, right? Like it's its own form of synergy in a weird way, where it's like, and this happens with almost every franchise at some point, right? I don't want to just dock the MCU for this. With most franchises, if a character gets too popular, the world itself, the fictional world, becomes too obsessed with that character.
Yeah, X-Men 3. Good lord.
Spock in Star Trek. It's a huge problem with Spock, where like everybody worships the ground Spock walks on. Important character, major, would have still been a major historical figure in that world, but because the fans cared more about Spock than they did anything else in TOS, he became like freaking God in that world, and that happens in a lot of stuff. It becomes really really problematic, I think.
Yeah.
Storytelling wise.
I would agree. That's one of the reasons I can't get into TV, because it's too reactionary. Like because the shows that you really like, you kind of want the writers to just have a plan from the beginning and then write their 3 seasons and then just make them before. Every time a show gets super big, like Lost, like we talked about Lost, that's also problematic because they didn't know where they were going. But like, I'm sure some of the characters changed their hierarchy in the show because they got super.
Oh, it ruined Heroes. It ruined 24. It ruined. I mean, name a show, right? Like, it ruined Dexter. And yeah, absolutely. With Lost, it was a huge issue that they didn't know where they were going. It was that mystery box philosophy that breaks down if you don't at least have kind of a sense of maybe what the actual mystery is. But I still could have seen that working kind of like Breaking Bad did, which is a horse of a different color, of course, but like they didn't know where that was going either, and they fully stick the landing. And when you tell people that don't know that show didn't have a roadmap, people don't believe you. That's how well constructed that series is. But Lost, I think, could have, even with the guys behind it, even Lindelof and those guys, I think if they could have made that whole show without anybody knowing about it before anybody saw the first episode, it has a better ending.
Oh yeah.
Like, that absolutely ruins that.
Yeah, because they start playing their greatest hits after a while.
John Ty, wasn't Heroes ruined with the writer's strike? The nail went into the coffin because of the writer's strike, but the history with Heroes is it is an overnight success. It becomes insanely popular during that first season, and it's this wonderfully confident show. I mean, it's very silly in ways. It's not a perfect show. It's ridiculous, but it's a really competent and confident show that loses its way because it gets too popular. And the idea of that show was supposed to be an anthology thing. Every season it was supposed to have a different cast, and because it made stars, ABC wouldn't let it, or no, I'm sorry, NBC wouldn't let anybody go from that show, and so immediately it had the we can't keep people dead problem and all of that also. But the writer's strike made that second season like, it didn't help. It certainly messed that up, but it was already going to be messed up to some degree because it wasn't allowed to have its initial premise. It was just spinning its wheels. Like, it would have still been doing the exact same story premise from the first season if the writer's strike hadn't happened. Because that's what they did with it. Like, they started writing it before they knew there was a strike. And so it was once again, we know something is going to ruin the world in the future, and we got to stop that from happening. It wouldn't have been that plot if they'd been allowed to recast everybody and do a different story.
Yeah. They should have, man, because it would have been ahead of its time with the anthology shows that all came on after that.
Oh, what a good point. And we would have pioneered it with superhero. Wouldn't that have been interesting?
It would have been cool.
What if that had happened?
Hindsight. It's 2020.
Well, that's one of those shows that feels like a binge-worthy streaming show before you have streaming, just, kind of like Breaking Bad did later, and
yeah,
all of that.
It's also one of those shows like Lost and like Breaking Bad, I guess. But not so much Breaking Bad, but like The Wire. All those shows that are like got so big and so popular that like I don't want to go back to them. Like they're intimidating, but also it's like it seems like you had to be there, you know?
Yeah, I don't think Breaking Bad's that way. I think that's gonna watch timeless, but
yeah, that's why I backed that one off. But there's a lot of like The Sopranos and like I don't know. There's just all these shows that were so huge. I saw Lost, but like all those other ones I missed, and I'm like, it's too late. It's too late at this point. I don't want to go back.
I think it's certainly true for shows, and you have to watch it to know for sure. But most shows, when people say it falls off when it gets too popular, it's almost always true, right? Like 95% of the time, if somebody tells you that, you can probably take their word for that, even if you haven't seen it. But part of the reason that shows like that don't hold up, obviously, is because they fall apart and they become, a lesser version of themselves, and sometimes even kind of self-parody toward the end. So if you weren't there in the first place, it's hard to really appreciate them because you know where it's all going. Nowhere worth watching.
Yeah. But I guess I'm even talking about...
I'm never going to watch Game of Thrones.
Well,
I've never seen one episode of that. What's the point now?
Yeah, I'm even talking about the ones that like didn't fall off, like Sopranos and The Wire, that are still held it up as great. I don't know. I can't get excited about going back and trying to get invested in those shows that have come.
See, I don't have that. I'm more interested in watching shows like that because I know they have a beginning, middle, and end, and that the quality apparently stayed with it. Most of the shows like that I don't go back to, it's not because they're old, it's because they just don't have premises that I'm initially that intrigued by in the first place. So like Sopranos just doesn't sound like my thing. I did watch the pilot finally a few months ago, and I liked it fine, but it's not really my thing. Like I can't get excited about it. But it's not because it's old.
Yeah. I also am that's not really my thing either.
I want to watch 6 Feet Under. I've always been curious about that show.
Yeah.
That was an HBO thing about people that work in a mortuary that I want to see because I did that.
Yeah, but that's my point. Is like I'm curious, but like it's been like 20 years and you haven't done it still. So like that's what I mean. Like I would, but it's always sitting there and I just never get to it.
Yeah, that's true. But for me, I don't know how much of that is because it was popular and how much of it is just I'm really bad at remembering to go back to stuff. I don't know.
Yeah. No, there's just too much.
Doesn't even feel like that long ago to me. Okay, let's take one more and then we'll go to our break.
All right. I'll do this one real quick. Mutale, super chat. Cap, what if... awkward to talk with you in the room, Jason, but... Cap,
well, Jason can go on break first, and then we'll follow. We'll stagger the break. No, I'm kidding. Does he need I don't know what it is. Does he need to not be here?
No, it's not inappropriate. It's just funny. Cap, what if you never got married and had kids?
Well, poof. There wouldn't be this guy.
And he's gone. It's a Wonderful Life, Geekvolution style.
I have probably the very... I have... probably the typical obvious answer that most married men would have, particularly creative married men. Oh, I see an arm!
Oh no, he's only had an arm.
Now it feels like a Back to the Future thing, where there's parts of him disappearing before our eyes. DJ, I wonder if you would have a similar response to this. I would probably be a lot more career focused.
Oh, yeah,
if I wasn't married. Obviously there's, and I don't mean to sound woe is me about this at all. You know what you sign up for to some degree. You don't entirely, obviously, especially when you didn't know you were going to have 6 kids, and then you end up having 6 kids. But 5 so far. There is a 6 coming for folks that don't know about that. But I would... I don't know, I used to, write feverishly every day, and I was constantly creating stuff, and I obviously, I still do a lot of stuff for the channel, but it's a very different thing, and I'm not as project-focused as I used to be, I still think about doing projects all the time. I still, write down ideas for things that I want to try to do eventually. I have much more the problem than I ever used to. Before I had kids, I finished everything. I never had this, like, not finishing things problem that I've unfortunately become somewhat known for on the channel now, because I'll start a project and then it will just be logistically impossible for me to finish it. I get too big for my britches. I go, I don't know, 10 years ago I could have done this. Surely I can just put nose to the grindstone and get it done. And it's just different when you have a family, when you have those kinds of responsibilities. And so sometimes I find myself falling into the pit of making decisions accidentally as if I didn't have a family. Yeah. And then later on I'll go, oh wait, no, this isn't realistic, I can't do that. And you know, I hate that, and I hate not following through with things. But these are sometimes the sacrifices that you have to make. So I would finish more things. I would probably... You can't know what your successes would be, but I would have worked hard at being published and making a career out of writing books. I'm almost positive I would. And I don't regret not having done that. I ended up going a different way. I've been more focused on my family, but I've had this to fall back on, and I've kind of turned this into the more of the career, you know, that would have been. Again, who knows how successful I would have been at that? I don't know if I would have made a living doing that, but I would have you know, written more novels, and I plan to continue writing novels. And if I ever stop doing this or I reel it way back in, I'm sure I'll replace the time that I'm doing this with that. So it's not a thing that I really regret. I have liked what I do. As I've talked about earlier this year, I do go back and forth some on whether logistically my life the way it is now, it really makes sense to do this forever. And so, you know, I've been at something of a crossroads place with that. And you know, now. What is that, DJ?
No, just that the Captain Logan No More video would be crazy.
Yeah. Well, and I'm being, you know, I don't want to be like, you know, sad and pathetic about it. And I also don't want to be gimmicky about it, like, you know, trying to make people wonder, is he going to quit or whatever. But I also don't mind being kind of open and transparent about it.
Yeah.
Where it's just, I have a lot on my plate. I do a lot of stuff, and anyway, I don't know how I got to that place, but I would be more career focused. I'd be writing books. I don't know that I would be doing this. I'm not sure if I'd have a channel.
Interesting.
It's hard to say.
You already had Jason when you started the channel?
You know, actually, that's true. I did start the channel before I had Jason.
Okay, so okay. That's what I thought, but I wanted to double check.
But the question was if I didn't get married and have kids, right? Or was it just not have kids?
Oh, yeah, it was married first. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Because, you know, like, I already had... My wife already had family. We were already... Sarah was pregnant when I started the channel.
Okay.
So we knew that was coming. So, yeah, it's hard to say. I mean, I could have ended up in a similar boat, but I'd be pouring even more of my heart and soul into this. It'd be most of what I was doing. If I did this still, I'm almost confident, maybe this is going to sound too conceited, I'm almost confident that I would have a bigger base. If I didn't have a family, I think I'm at least 100,000, if not a lot more, at this point. And it'd be rewinds every week or every couple weeks, and it'd be more consistent in the kinds of stuff I was doing, and nearly everything would be written except for discussion shows.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So yeah, because I guess I have kind of an interesting perspective on this, because I wasn't doing this until I had kids. You know, like I think about this like when I never have enough time in the day to make all the videos that are in my head and I want to make, and it's like, oh, man, what if I had started this before I had kids and had just all the time in the world? Like so it's like, yeah, it's not that I regret it or anything. Obviously, kids are the best thing that has ever happened to me.
Yeah.
But it's just like, man, there's just so much more time in the day when you don't have kids. And it's not just like time. Like sometimes you do have time, and sometimes you do have 2 hours at the end of the day when the kids go to sleep, but you're just exhausted and you can't do anything. Like,
yeah.
So yeah, that would be interesting.
You don't really think about how you spend your free time until you don't have as much of it, right?
Yeah, it's like morphine.
You don't even think you don't. That's great. You don't even think about it like free time.
Yeah.
As much, you know, you won't realize, because what I mean by free time is there's when you have nothing else going on except for like a 9 to 5, right? You go to work, you come home, you can do whatever you want to. But you plan like projects and things for yourself. You take for granted the hour or two that you might take out to unwind before you go to bed, or to read a book or watch TV or something after dinner, or whatever it is. And when all of your quote-unquote free time is taken up with spending time with your kids, which is valuable, and I wouldn't trade it for anything, but it's free time and it's not free time, right? Like alone time is a thing. It's a thing that everybody needs, and I didn't used to really appreciate that. It used to bug me when people had to unwind. That was not a thing I did, or it wasn't a thing I thought I did. You know what I mean? Like I always felt like when I was younger, I could go all the time, and I didn't like to ever not be active, not be busy. And then once I realized that I actually had to, even if I was busy all the time, it was freedom. I decided what I was doing. I was unwinding in my own way without realizing it. I could sit down and read for fun, or write for fun, or like play a video game on my own, or whatever it was I was doing, and I wasn't really thinking about it in that way. It was unwinding time, but it absolutely was that.
Yeah, free time doesn't mean. This is kind of how we use the term, right? Free time means time that you just waste on nothing, right? Like that's how we use the term free time. But free time, you can get work done in your free time because you're choosing to do that with, like, that's what you chose to do. I chose to do this. But when you have kids, you don't have a choice of what to do with your free time.
That's right. Yeah.
It's taken up for you.
And sometimes creative stuff requires you to be in a particular kind of headspace. And there'll be people that use that as an excuse not to do it. Like, I'm a firm believer different people have to do this differently, but at least for myself, I've always been for people with anything like my mentality, I've always been a firm believer in you sit down and you try to write when you have time for that, and let yourself get into that space. You won't always feel like doing it when you sit down, but you can get yourself there if only you have enough time. But there's distractions. There's it has to be a certain time of day for me. I don't write in the morning. I have to write late at night. And if I've been busy with the kids and everything all day long, it might be, as you said, I might just be too tired, to sit down and work at that point, or kids might wake up in the middle of the night and I got to deal with that, or whatever it is. And so you also have to keep in mind when you have a family,
camera.
There are distractions, there are things that take your attention.
Yeah, and the biggest thing for me is sometimes I'll be okay to work when the kids go to sleep, but I'm not okay to be interesting on camera. You got to have a certain amount of energy level to talk and be interesting for people on camera. And I don't want to come off just as a monotone, tired slob. So yeah, that's my biggest struggle is the kids go to bed at 8 and I can work. And that's when I usually edit or do that kind of stuff, because I do not feel like getting on camera and trying to talk coherently.
Now, I have learned to fake that.
Well, yeah, because you always work late. You're more of a night owl than I am these days.
I've learned to fake the looking like I want to be there on camera thing. I do this so much.
Yeah, well, and the live thing helps also, because you're actually interacting.
That helps a ton, yeah. Because as I've said a million times, if I'm pre-recording something, if I don't like how it's going, it's really hard not to stop the recording and start over, and I'll do that 115 times. That's part of the reason I live stream all the time now. Is because once I'm here, I'm forced to be here, Like this show, I would have stopped at the beginning when I said that your job was your name. Strike that, reverse it.
Yeah, you would have turned it off and started a new video.
Okay, so this was a side tangent for 10 minutes. We're going to go to our break now for about 3.5 to 4 minutes, and we will be... Oh, he's back. He's back. He gets to exist now.
Oh, the funny thing about Jason is you don't appreciate him, so you can't see him anymore. Sorry.
Oh, man. References are always better when you actually directly quote them.
Well, I couldn't, hire a tango to actually hit me while I was saying it, so I had to throw my voice.
You couldn't afford a Blue Ranger suit.
not after I bought one, and they never sent it to me. And never made it.
Well, actually, he wasn't even wearing a suit. That's the whole point. I don't know what I'm talking about. I still can't believe they did that to you, man.
I just reached out to them like a couple weeks ago, and they're like, oh, sorry, yeah, let's take care of this. I'm like, I don't want it anymore. I don't need it. I'm a whole different size. Like, it's not going to be custom fit to me anymore. Dude.
I asked you for this 4 years ago.
Yeah. It's crazy. So anyway,
by take care of this, you do mean giving me a refund, right?
Yeah, that's what I said. They're like, oh, sorry, we can't do refunds. I'm like, well, this is kind of a special case, wouldn't you say, when I paid for something 4 years ago and you still haven't even started it?
Oh, Lord. All right. Well, anyway, on that note, we'll be right back, folks, for the second half of the Captain Logan Show. Stay tuned. Welcome back, folks. It's time for the second half of the Captain Logan show, and we're going to get right back into the questions. DJ, before we go back to Patreon, I see some questions there for Jason, and he hasn't had a chance to really interact with us too much this show so far. The questions just have not been real Jason esque yet. So would you throw us one of those?
Sorry, Jason. We've tailored this show to our tastes too much.
Well, you had a little bit to say about the Spider-Man 4 thing, maybe.
Yeah.
But anyway.
We got, a lot of these are not what ifs, guys. Follow the directions. I'm going to have to tweak some of these.
They're supposed to be what if questions. But yeah, we'll give Jason a question or two, and then we'll get back to Patreon and Super Chats.
Okay.
But ask more questions, folks. We've got some time. I'm pretty sure we can still take some new questions. Go ahead.
Daniverse. Hey, Jason. What if you could walk through walls?
I don't know. I'd probably, sneak into things and make, I don't know.
You'd
steal
sneak
money?
into things.
No, I don't know. I could sneak into the government or sneak into, or I could
What would you do at the government?
I governments.
He'd govern naturally. He'd go govern.
I'd go govern
You're
all
not
the
Mystique.
ments.
You can just go through the walls. Then what would you do once you're in there?
Right. But if I could walk through walls, I don't know. I feel like the logical thing to do.
It's a good point. It's not like you can take the place of the governor or the president.
That's a pretty useless power in real life. I don't know.
Is.
I would just walk through my office to go get a drink of water or a snack. And
it would be helpful. It would probably take half of my time, so that I would have more free time to do more things. Because I could just walk through everything to go do something. So that I don't have to walk around all these walls and stairs and things. But
sorry, I never thought of the convenience of that. We always do that with speedsters, but not as much with people who can go through walls.
Yeah, you wouldn't have to open the garage door. You just walk right in. You wouldn't have to.
Now, you could do the same thing if you were Juggernaut, but you'd create a path of destruction in your wake.
Right.
It's also one of those powers that if you start thinking about it at all, it's really, really, it would be so hard to actually do, because to turn it on only in certain places as you're walking through something, but not turn it on in your feet and legs so you fell through the floor, the timing and the brain power that it would use would be so stressful. If you mess it up a little bit, you stop in a wall and then your hand is destroyed with wood going through it. Ugh.
So believe it or not, I wrote the first draft of a novel when I was right out of high school that was not the best, so I never finished it. I never did another draft. I did finish it, but I never did another draft. But it was about a space alien woman from another planet who could give other people powers. So she didn't have superpowers herself. She just had the ability to touch you and then think of an ability, and then you would have it. And it was, and the name of the book was going to be the Gifted, and she could give you powers.
Oh, I thought the name of the book would be Space Alien Woman.
Space Alien Woman, yeah. And then of course they made a TV show based on X-Men called The Gifted, but that was the name of my book. And DJ, in that I had a character who I was exploring all these different situations where having a superpower in the moment would be useful, but then you would have to deal with the consequences of having that power forever. There was no way to get rid of them. And so there was a character who was trapped in a car and was going to die. The car was going to crush him. So the space alien woman was able to reach into the car, and she wasn't strong enough to get him out, but she could give him the ability to go through the door. But then he has that ability forevermore, and he becomes a thief, and he becomes a bank robber. And so the way that he was ultimately stopped, that he was caught, is he was lured to the top of a really high building that was hollow inside it. Oh. So the only way he could get out was to face through the floor, but if he did, he'd fall 50 stories and kill himself. So you just reminded me of that. That was the one thing I ever did with that power.
Sweet.
Maybe
Wow.
I'll rewrite that book at some point. But
Was
it
that
still
like
sounds,
was that like college years?
still sounds okay. Yeah, I wrote it at 19. It was before
Oh.
college. It was right out of high school.
Wow. Yeah, that's always one that I've thought, because it just seems so hard to use efficiently. Because like, how does she like? And it makes no sense. Like in X-Men 3, when she grabs Juggernaut, and like when she phases through the floor, how does she stop and come back up? Like, what is stopping her? Like, she's phasing through the floor. If she turns off phasing, she's in the floor and dead. Like, how does she float? Can she also float?
Yeah, can she levitate? That's a good question. Is she holding on to something when she does that with her feet? Is there a platform underneath?
I don't know.
Because it looks like a magician's stage act.
Yeah, she just rises back up, and I don't know. That always bugged me. But I always overanalyze powers, and it's like, shut up, DJ. It's just a goofy superhero thing.
Yeah, I mean, it is a conceit, but the problem is we always have arcane it too, where things like that, especially Singer, you know, they'll try to wow us with the realism of it, and then hope that we don't notice when they don't want to be realistic about it.
Yeah, well, that was at least after he had gone, and that was old Ratner. Old Ratner.
That's true. That movie still sort of pretended like it was doing that, but
Yeah.
but yes. So you break into the government.
No, I mean, I don't know where the government lives, but
All right, government, I'm here now.
Government.
Okay, we're taking way too long on these. Let's move on.
All right, let me get one more for Jason, and then we will.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Gosh, you guys, the chat just dropped down. Hey Jason, what if Cap put you in charge of the channel? What would you keep, and what would you focus on?
Man, what do I keep? I mean, I'd probably try to make it as superhero and stuff as it is. I might do more of a video game thing, like a Cap Can't Play, just, you know, keep that series going. 'Cause, you know, when I have a channel, like, I would want to keep doing regular content, and keep it superhero based. And I wouldn't review every superhero movie, because that's insane. But you know, I mean, I'd still do this show, and I'd still do like how we felt about on certain things. But what would I focus on the most? I don't know. I feel like I would focus on like trying to get better at writing so that I could write, so that I could do more like written reviews and stuff.
So you take it back to script.
I try to like do at least a couple scripted videos.
If I didn't have twins, if I didn't have 5 kids and about to have 6, I also would go back to some scripted.
Yeah, I feel like I wouldn't do all scripted, because that's also, I think, just kind of crazy.
Well, it was never all scripted.
Yeah, no.
Would you do commentaries?
Yeah, because, you know, I wouldn't have to think about it that much. I would just have to be like, okay, I'm gonna do this, and I'm gonna watch it, and I'm just gonna react.
Well, don't give away my trade secrets.
Captain
no.
Logan exposed.
He's like, well, yeah, I would do it for the same reason you do, Cap. It's easy, lazy content. Cap. My son calls me Cap.
All right, Cap.
This show has just been Cap and Jason roasting each other, says Alex Barron.
That's really the dynamic of our father-son ness. Dynamic. It's the dynamic of our dynamic. Continue, DJ.
All right, we've got 9 super chats. We got to get caught up.
Let's hit them. Here we go.
Mr. Cool, $5. Just had one more idea. Sorry I asked 2.
No, appreciate you, man.
What if comic film ownerships were flipped, i.e. Disney owns DC and WB owns Marvel?
Okay, say it one more time.
What if comic film ownerships were flipped? So
Flipped.
Disney owns DC and WB owns Marvel.
Did we not do this somewhat recently?
I don't remember
I
it.
do feel like this is one that's come up. I'm gonna let you guys field it first.
I would be a much sadder boy.
Yeah.
If my Marvel franchise was all over the place and restarted
And
at a bunch.
insane.
If it was that way from the beginning, yeah. Because I mean, I have a hard time not feeling like if it happened right this minute, if you're a Marvel fan, you might get better content. Because you've got the guy that made the Guardians movies running it. Assuming he still got that job.
He doesn't specify. He just says, what if comic book film ownerships were flipped? So you could take it like moving forward, or you could take from the beginning, I guess.
Yeah. And again, if it's Marvel, you don't know for sure if Gunn gets that. Just butterfly effect. Who knows what the difference? But all things being equal, if the same people are all in charge, honestly, it'd be kind of nice if it happened right now. You get kind of a shake up. Well, I say it'd be nice if it happened right now. I wouldn't want DC to go to Disney because I don't want Disney as it is making anything right now. Like I think everyone needs to be fired and replaced. And...
I don't want a ton of random stuff we don't know and that just made into a bunch of Disney Plus shows for, like...
Disney Plus DC shows. That'd be great.
Well, it's fine if we don't know them. Somebody just needs to...
somebody needs to know them. The writer
have a
needs to know
passion
them.
for it and care. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, even though I don't like Booster Gold, I'm not hearing the announcement for Booster Gold and going, "Oh, that sucks. Don't make that. Nobody knows it." I'm going, "Don't make that because it sucks."
Yeah.
It's kind of different.
Don't make that because I hate him.
Yeah, hopefully they'll make me like him.
Yeah, that's weird. I mean, right now, the state of it is right now. I'm not really pleased with either of the companies, but yeah, hopefully they can both straighten things out in the near future.
Yeah, what if it had happened back in the day?
Would superhero films be as prominent as it is?
I mean, that's a great question because I mean the big.
I think so, because if Disney had made Superman, it would have still been huge.
Yeah,
that's fair.
But it's hard to say if that would have been the start of a successful shared universe. Like you don't know. You don't know what they make after that.
Does Disney do so many sequels? Disney wasn't doing sequels back in the 70s. They are now, obviously. Like, would it have become a franchise? Like, would Superman and Batman both have got 4?
But I think we need to take a step back because I think you're looking at it kind of wrong, DJ. Because Disney gets Marvel, but then initially, at least, Marvel Studios is still working kind of autonomously. It doesn't feel like Disney. Nobody's talking back then. People don't talk as much about Disney is making Marvel movies. Like they technically are, but in the same way Pixar is making Pixar movies, right? Like I think whatever that group is making, if it's successful, yeah, they're making a bunch of sequels. They're making a shared universe. I don't think it matters that it's Disney. It would have worked out exactly the same way.
Well, yeah, I don't think it would have been a shared universe in the 70s, though. When Superman...
Oh, okay. I thought you meant just at the same time as that happened. Yeah. So you're going all the way back. Because the problem is Disney doesn't get Marvel until, just after Iron Man. That happens in 2010.
Yeah. Does that happen in 2010?
Yeah. It's not like Disney was making the old Marvel movies.
This question is just so open-ended.
It's too complicated. Yeah,
because no rules.
Because Warner's was always the parent company, almost always. Going all the way. Well, actually, I say that. Was Warner's the parent company even during Superman? I guess it wasn't yet, was it?
That's a good question. I don't know who distributed that.
I am actually massively questioning myself on this. I think it was. I should know this, and I do know this, but I'm in the moment kind of second guessing myself with it. But like obviously, at least by Batman,
yeah,
Warner's was the parent company. Warner's was not the parent company for the TV show. Fox owned that. But yeah, it's really hard to say because it just depends on how far back you go with that.
Yeah, we need like stipulations for this question. Like, what is that? Is it? Because we don't even know if he means flip now or flip in the past. Like he's just, what if they're flipped?
Yeah, I think the easiest way to answer that, and this is just where my brain was initially going, is don't go any further back than the shared universes. Just go back to 08 with Marvel, and just say like
DC by Warner Brothers buys Marvel instead of Disney buying Marvel.
Yeah, and then somehow Disney gets its hands on DC instead of Marvel. Like Marvel either didn't have it or they sold it before they bought Marvel. That's what happens there. Anyway, let's say that happened at that point. I'm going to sound contradictory for a second in saying that when I said that Marvel Studios was working somewhat autonomously, they still wouldn't have been able to put out, say, rated R superhero movies at that point, I don't think. And they probably would have had to make things that were at least, I'm going to say it again, ostensibly for families. So what would a Batman movie have looked like under a Disney-owned DC Studios over a... You see what I'm saying? Like, I don't know.
And it's so tough because we don't know, is it still the Marvel Universe that's ahead and the DC universe, and Disney's DC is trying to catch up to Warner Brothers Marvel, or is it flipped now? Is Disney still ahead and Warner Brothers Marvel is trying to catch up to Disney's DC? Because that affects what movies are being made, because they're looking at the other studios so much and trying to play catch up.
Yeah, so let's say 2008. Both of these movies come out. They're under the opposite studios. So forget there was ever Batman Begins. Forget it's The Dark Knight. But Disney, just to simplify things, Disney puts out a Batman film, and Warner Brothers puts out an Iron Man film.
Okay. What was Disney making in 2008?
What does it end up looking like? Where does that go?
I feel like I need to do so much research for this question.
It'd be a lot.
But once again, I don't know that it would feel like a Disney thing necessarily. It would be like the guys that were making Marvel movies then are just making DC movies instead. And you'd say that like before that maybe they had DC equivalents to Ghost Rider and Daredevil and
we had the DC Renaissance in the early aughts.
Well, that's the other thing that makes all this complicated is Marvel had movies before the MCU. Marvel Studios existed before the MCU.
Yeah.
So anyway,
I don't know what he's trying to get at with this question. It seems like he wants to know what those studios specifically, what would change if they owned them. But there's so much baggage that we're trying to get through before we can even think about that question.
Yeah, I mean, the easy answer is you'd probably have lighter DC movies and darker Marvel movies. But I don't actually know how true that is.
Yeah.
I mean, probably though. More than likely.
Yeah. What would have been
a Disney Daredevil at that point? Which is so weird because Disney still owns that at the point Netflix Daredevil happens. They just give them carte blanche to make it their way. Anyway.
This question's hurting my brain.
Oh yeah, no, that is a stumper for sure. We've got to continue. I want to make sure we get several more of these done in the next 25 minutes.
I will make a timeline.
Yeah, we've got.
Ooh, that would be awesome. You're gonna make a timeline?
Yeah, I will do
that. We've got multiple super chats since then, so now we're more behind. Mutale super chat. What if Ultimate Spider-Man never happened? Oh, that's sad. All these sad questions.
But it's a great question. If you don't have Ultimate, you don't have... I mean, the landscape for extra media Spider-Man looks completely different. And I can't tell you what it looks like, because without Ultimate Spider-Man, you still could get certainly... air quote darker and more modern storytelling for Spider-Man, but there's a lot of ideas and things from that book that would not have permeated, because Amazing Spider-Man is very much based on that stuff. It isn't exactly Ultimate, but Amazing Spider-Man does not look anything like that without Ultimate. You don't get Spectacular the way you do without Ultimate, the cartoon show, et cetera, et cetera.
All the Venom stuff is straight out of Ultimate. Yeah, you do, and comics would be pretty different, I would assume. Like, Ultimate Spider-Man was pretty huge in reinvigorating not just Spider-Man, but Marvel itself after the 90s were starting to to dwindle. Like, it was pretty big. That was like I remember like that was an event. I wasn't even reading comics. I was going to comic stores and getting like one like every few months. But I wasn't like big into comics, but those were like in grocery stores. Those were like they're putting out these like magazine copies that was like an X-Men Ultimate issue and Ultimate Spider-Man issue. Like they really pushed those Ultimate books. Like they were huge.
It brought people into comics the way New 52 thought it would.
Yeah. It was big.
New 52 actually did a little bit of that, but Ultimate, like, you got to remember that the comics crash happened just before that. This is '01 that Ultimate Spider-Man starts. And two things saved Marvel and arguably the comics business during that period. And Ultimate was the bigger of the two, but it was Ultimate and it was Marvel Knights. And without those two things...
And the movies, obviously. Like that boom in the movies helped a little bit.
Yes, of course. But I just mean for comics, like people actually buying comics. Because Marvel was really in trouble. Nobody was buying their stuff. They declared bankruptcy. You needed, and really you needed Bendis. Because two of the biggest things that helped were Ultimate Spider-Man and his Daredevil.
Yeah. I just think the two are linked. Like, I don't think DC could have recreated that because the Ultimates being launched at the same time almost that like Raimi Spider-Man and X-Men movies were coming out. Like, yeah. That was like Marvel was like sweeping everything at the same time in all the mediums. It was crazy.
And the big thing that helped DC bounce back was Jim Lee. Which was a little bit after that, if memory serves. But like stuff like Hush certainly helped. You had kind of a renaissance after a few years with Batman and stuff. But like early 2000s was rough for DC. That was when like Jeff Loeb was writing Superman, and although it's not like they didn't have popular things. I mean, Superman Batman was a real big book. Now that I'm thinking about it, which was also Jeff Loeb. But his Superman was rough. John Ty did Grant Morrison's X-Men help. I don't know how that book sold. I know it was very influential. But I don't know how important that was to reinvigorating sales and stuff. But now we're just talking about history.
Yeah, I don't know where Marvel would be if Ultimate didn't happen. It might be completely different. It was a big deal.
I really don't know where Spider-Man would be. It's hard to say if Spider-Man's storytelling would be more or less traditional at this point without Ultimate. Because, on the one hand, Ultimate is very modern storytelling, but it also takes the character back to brass tacks, puts him in high school again, and recreates a lot of those stories and characters, but is faithful in its identity to what Spider-Man was, but then later on in 616, like as that's going on, like part of the reason that gets made is because to some people Spider-Man had become kind of unrecognizable with the marriage and stuff. But then way later, with Dan Slott, Spider-Man becomes unrecognizable to everybody else, and after One More Day and all of that. So yeah, it's very difficult to say if we'd be in more or less of a traditional place with Spider-Man.
Yeah, and if we didn't have Ultimate, we wouldn't have Miles, and we wouldn't have...
Yeah. And that's huge.
Ultimate's awesome. It's my favorite comic run. It's awesome. It's great. Let's see. Another one from you, Tale. 14 South African Rand. What
I hit
if
my
Crispin...
water bottle the first time.
Different note. What if Crispin Glover returned for Back to the Future Part 2 and 3?
I don't think it would have had very much of an impact on those movies because there's no way if he had agreed to do it that he would have had the influence he wanted to have, at least if the creators of those films are to be believed. So like he wanted, to be featured more, and he wanted a bigger paycheck and stuff. I don't know that he would have been... Well, I say that. He probably would have had more of a role than that character does because the actor's not there, so they hide him in the couple of scenes he's in, the character's in, as much as humanly possible. Does that... Well, yeah, it's actually hard to say. Like, does the Elder McFly... Does George McFly die in the alternate timeline if Crispin Glover comes back? Maybe not. It's actually hard to say. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't mean to say I don't know for all of these. There's some tough ones. There's some stumpers tonight.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the stories would have been more or less the same, but he might have had like larger roles in them. Maybe he would have gotten to be in the DeLorean at the end of Back to the Future 2 and gone back to the Enchantment Under the Sea dance.
Yeah.
And then had to help himself punch Biff in the face.
Yeah.
Would have been really funny if he had two George McFlys there both punching Biff in the face.
That would be hilarious.
That'd be terrible. But, yeah.
Another one from Utale. What if Gal Gadot is the DCU Wonder Woman for Gunn? I like doing it at the end of the question. That's cool.
Say again?
I like doing it at the end of the question. That's put some finality to it.
Oh, yeah, I should start doing that. I did it this time just because you blew through the name before I had a chance to hit it. I thought you meant putting the what if at the end. I was like, he didn't do that. Let me go back for 1 second, because Mutali has a good point. He says maybe Crispin Glover would have played Seamus McFly in Part 3. Yeah, and it would have helped the whole thing to be a little bit more seamless.
Yeah.
Because he would have had to keep playing his ancestors.
Yeah.
That's a good point. I'm glad that came up. Anyway, what was the question again?
What if Gal Gadot was Wonder Woman in Gunn?
So there's been some rumors lately for some reason. I haven't looked into this. I just saw headlines earlier today that people are confused because allegedly she's supposed to still be Wonder Woman in Gunn's reboot. I'll be shocked, dismayed, flabbergasted, confused, bewildered, flummoxed. I don't buy it. I don't think that's gonna happen. If it does,
we'll never hear the end of it from the
Snyder buffs. Yeah, you'll never and the
I can't think of his name because I can't think of any names tonight.
She will be in every single movie for 5 minutes.
Well, yeah, she's just the cameo queen now. Like, she's been in 3 cameos this year.
I think if Gunn's using her, that's not what would happen.
Yeah.
It will.
Henry Cavill.
The
Henry Cavill apologists will storm the studio. They'll be furious.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I don't even see what the rhyme or reason would be for it. He's reinventing everything else. This idea that she's the only person that can play that character is bogus, and surely he also believes that's bogus. I just wouldn't. But like, if it happened, what would the landscape look like? There would be a contingent of people. I don't know how small it would be, that would be very excited to see her get another movie because they like that first one, but most people would be leery of it, even if they're not worried about the continuity and baggage and how confusing it would be if she's playing some other version of that character, or if for some reason we do multiverse shenanigans that allow her to still be part of all of this. Forgetting all of that, there will be people that will just go, I think a lot of people that will just go, well, her last movie sucked. Like, a lot of people don't look at who's making a movie, who else is involved. They just look at the iteration, and they go, well, the last time I saw this person play this character, it sucked. I don't want to see that again. You know? Like we live in a day and age where a lot more people pay attention to behind the scenes, and it's harder to get away from production. But still, I think your average person isn't paying that close of attention to all of that, right? So it would be a huge business mistake. It'd be a very risky move for no good reason. And like I said, it would keep a lot of baggage even if the continuity was different. I don't see the point of it. I think I don't see how any good could come of that.
Also, yeah, I don't even know what the point would be, because the reason we both liked that first movie so much, and the reason she fits so well in that first movie, sorry, Austin, is because her, like, I think her, like, newness and, like, I don't know, her freshness as an actress and kind of, like, she doesn't know what she's doing fits for that character, because that character is supposed to be, like, so innocent and doesn't know what's going on, like, anything. And then
she's naive. She's idealistic.
Yeah, naive. Like the version that they're doing now is like an evil, like really hardcore, like warrior princess version, right? Like she's not the right fit for that.
No. No, I don't think she's growing into what the role would have to become.
She'd have to change real quick. If she was going to do that.
Yeah,
but no, I think she should just still keep cameoing. She's done 3 cameos this year, 2 of them in DC things. I think she should just keep going with that. I think that should be her new shtick. She's the DC Stan Lee.
She should be a popular actress playing Wonder Woman in fictional film versions of Wonder Woman in the DC universe. That's what she should be doing.
That's what it is. We've solved it. Moving on.
She has like a TikTok and a YouTube channel, and we keep seeing her videos in movies that people are watching on their phones.
She's gonna be in Blue Beetle, right?
She has to, and Aquaman. She has to appear in all the DC movies.
She has to. No, she absolutely has to.
She's already shot them. The cameos are in the can.
I hadn't had that thought. She has to.
Has to be in Blue Beetle.
She's the Nick Fury.
I don't think she'll be in Blue Beetle just because, well, who knows? I mean, Gunn said things that turn out to not really be true. At least to most people, when he talks about how great Flash is. But I don't think he's said any. But that's still a matter of opinion, of course. I don't know if he's straight up like told any lies yet. But when he's talked about Blue Beetle like it could be roped into the new continuity, and if that's true, there can be a Wonder Woman cameo.
Oh, yeah.
Now, what if? Because I haven't looked into it.
What if?
Yeah, I haven't looked into this, so this could be a pointless waste of time. But what if the reason that rumor is going around is because somebody got wind that there is a Wonder Woman cameo in Blue Beetle, and they've also heard Gunn say that Blue Beetle could be roped into the new universe, so they go, well, by extension, then so can Wonder Woman. What if that's that's probably not the reason, but what if it was?
I need her to show up and say, Miguel Diaz, you're part of a larger universe. You just don't know it yet.
That character has a name. His name is Jaime. I actually know that. Alex Barron, Blue Beetle will be the least viewed movie in history. It's gonna look like some of those, like, B original superhero movies from the 80s and 90s that nobody saw. Like Meteor Man.
Meteor Man.
I don't know. Maybe somebody watched that. I've never seen that movie, but these kind of forgotten, like, singular superhero movies. It's gonna be like that, except it's actually based on a DC property.
But it still won't be. It could get like 5 views, and it won't be as big of a fiasco as Flash, getting as little views as it got.
Motali says no. Gal Gadot said she heard from Gunn and Safran that they are making a Wonder Woman 3. I don't understand why they would make that and not make a Cavill Superman 2. And I don't need a Cavill Superman 2 at this point because, as I've said 100,000 times, I want to move on. However, if they make a Wonder Woman 3, I don't know why they would do that and it would be in the new continuity. I would think that it would be like a vestige of the old one. I've also been this must be why. I've also been seeing rumors that maybe they're like keeping Snyderverse and they'll make some more movies in the Snyderverse. But if they do that, and again, I haven't bought into any of that. If they do that, then it'll be to appease people that like that stuff, and then you'd think, okay, well then you make at least one more Henry Cavill Superman. Look, we've got 2 ongoing sort of shared universes already for the DC universe right now. One that hasn't started yet, that's going to start with Superman Legacy, and one that is strictly Batman. I don't want more Snyder superhero movies or Snyder DC movies, and I don't know that, and I know that there's not enough interest to warrant it, just money wise. But forgetting that, if they just don't care about throwing money away, why not have 3? Sure, and we can just all pick and choose. And if you don't want to see Wonder Woman 3 and Henry Cavill Superman 2, you don't have to. But you can't. I'm gonna side with the Cavill obsessed people for just a second. I really am, DJ. If they make that,
Cap is the Cavill apologist. Cap exposed.
With a caveat, with an asterisk. I'm a Cavill apologist if they make Wonder Woman 3 and it's not in the new continuity.
Yeah.
And maybe even a little bit if it is, because I get you're making a Superman movie with your own vision, and the last guy doesn't fit into that. But then what? You just don't have a vision for Wonder Woman? And then they're making an Amazon show. Not a show on Amazon. Not the channel, but about the Amazons.
My brain. What happened to when these were like, what if a hot dog was a sandwich?
Yeah. What happened to those? Why do our brains have to like explode?
Why is this the complicated, most difficult show we've ever done?
You remember episode 1?
I feel like I'm taking a final exam.
I know. The pressure and the stress.
I'm scooping my brain out with a spork. Alex Barron, let the Snyderverse die. Kill it if you have to. If there's just a 1% chance that they're making more Snyder movies. Okay, it is supposed to be 5 minutes before the end of the show. I don't know how many super chats we have left.
We still have like 8.
Okay, we haven't tackled nearly enough stuff. Let's knock these out. Hopefully there's some things that Jason can weigh in on.
Yeah.
And I will try not to lengthen things. Jason, I'm sorry you haven't had a chance to talk a lot.
No, I'll just facepalm at everything.
Perfect. I've always said we need a designated facepalmer in the vicinity when we do the show.
Yeah, what's up?
I'm still on about this. Would the Sonyverse even exist? Like, would Sony even have anything? Or, like, any other companies have anything if Marvel was owned by Warner Brothers?
It depends on at what point they bought it. Like,
well, what point did Warner Brothers buy DC? Like,
so that goes way back. So
right.
there was really not a point where all those things were fractured.
Yeah.
And Marvel. So Stan Lee made the mistake of selling, in just Marvel at large, they made the mistake of selling different options to different companies for their characters, for distribution and for making things, and that's why that all got splintered up the way it did.
Okay.
So it really depends on if Marvel is smart back in like the 60s and 70s.
Yeah.
And beyond, and even into the 90s, and they sell, and they make a commitment with one company to make their movies and make it a shared universe, then that doesn't happen. But
which is what DC did, so I feel like. And then DC.
So you're saying DC could be all splintered?
Yeah, DC gets bought from Disney, and like this, they make the same choices, but they're just bought by the different companies at different times.
So you're saying that you could have like a Sony that owns Superman, and you could have a Fox that owns Batman,
but
like replace X-Men for Batman, replace Spider-Man for Superman.
But would DC splinter everything if they weren't owned by anything, or would they make their own studio back in the 2000s? Like, would they do that? That's the question.
Yeah, that's good. I didn't think of that.
Thanks, Ben.
Why did you have to take us back there? My brain hurts even more.
All right, let's see. Okay, here's one. Another one.
That's the most bang Ben or anyone else has ever gotten out of a super chat, by the way. Good Lord. Okay, I'm sorry. What was the question? Who is asking it?
Yeah, it was only a $5 super chat too, and it's Canadian dollars. So who even knows what it is?
We should have just made that its own video, where you watch us just all have a heart attack and die on camera.
Let's dive deeper into that and make that a whole.
Let me see. We've got one from Utali. What if Mark Steven Johnson directed 02 Spider-Man and Sam Raimi directed 03 Daredevil?
Ooh.
Oh, now we're doing more of these. You're right. That is, I don't know why I wasn't doing it that way all along.
That really puts some finality on the question.
It makes it sound like a mic drop.
Especially when it's a Daredevil question. Because it's a church bell.
But then, behind the scenes, you're just holding this for like 10 seconds, just like, when is it going to stop the sentence so that I can just...
Okay, so Mark Steven Johnson is directing what film?
Spider-Man 02.
And Spider-Man 2?
No, Spider-Man 02, Spider-Man
Spider-Man
2002.
Yeah, so Raimi's Spider-Man, and Raimi is directing Daredevil.
So
Well,
they're making them at the same time, kind of.
you know what
They
I'm going to
just
say?
flip.
If Mark Steven Johnson is directing Spider-Man, you're going to get some really embarrassing backdrops with seams going down.
Hey, but high school Cap would have loved that Spider-Man movie.
Yeah. Probably so.
Also,
Evanescence songs everywhere.
now I want a Spider-Man movie with Evanescence in it.
Well, I don't. The thing is, he wouldn't have made it the same way, right? Like he's trying to make it sort of edgy. He's trying to make it really moody. His Spider-Man wouldn't necessarily be moody like that. I don't know how that guy would handle a high school thing. No idea how Mark Steven Johnson handles a high school thing. However, Daredevil, without question, gets the better end of the stick on that. And I'm not saying that it means that Daredevil would have been as popular as Spider-Man was, because it wouldn't. That was always going to be a niche thing to some degree. But go back and watch Darkman, and Raimi is absolutely wonderful for Daredevil. He's a better pick for Daredevil than he is for Spider-Man.
Yeah, he's a much better pick, I think. And it would have been interesting to see a Daredevil film that's shot kind of more like a classic film, you know? Like, it feels more like that kind of era of filmmaking still, whereas Daredevil was much more like, felt more like an early 2000s film. Whereas I don't like Sam Raimi's sensibilities. They don't really work for me, but that's what people say about it, is those Spider-Man films feel kind of like iconic and more classic, just from the filmmaking.
You're right. They're both dated in their way, but Spider-Man, I think without question, holds up better, is more timeless.
Yeah, does Daredevil, like, it's interesting how much more of a bump would it have been if Raimi's making it? Because this Daredevil still doesn't become the phenomenon that Spider-Man is just because it's Spider-Man.
It would be a cult classic.
Yeah, it would be bigger, but it still wouldn't be Spider-Man. And does Spider-Man still happen if it's a Mark Johnson film? Does it still rein in the Renaissance?
If it's at all competently made, I mean, I think that movie could be on the same... I'll go this far. I think that movie could be on the same level his Daredevil is and make almost as much money just because that character is so well-liked and because they finally got it on screen. I don't know that it's as... Or at least make as much money opening weekend.
Especially since we're talking about the first Spider-Man film, because I don't even consider it that much of a huge difference between, at least the director's cut of Daredevil. That first one, anyway, because the first one's super cookie cutter. But just the filmmaking's better, obviously.
But I think Raimi is still head and shoulders above Mark Steven Johnson as director. I mean, like, Johnson is, whether you like him or not. I mean, like with Raimi, Johnson's a workman director. Some of the stuff in that movie looks a little TV. Like, I like the moodiness of it. I think there's some cool shots and stuff. It's competent, but I think he was mostly a music video guy, and you can tell. I mean, it kind of shows.
Yeah. Does the hero song at the end of Raimi actually make it into the film this time?
Yeah, probably so. Yeah. And it's probably riddled with, like, even if it's not Evanescence, it's probably riddled with period music.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
No, it wouldn't be as timeless. When you were saying how much more popular would Daredevil be, it gets on, and even if Affleck is playing it, I think, I'll say this, if Raimi's directing Affleck is not made fun of the way he is today for that role, even in the same costume. He can have exactly the same costume. And under Raimi's helm, I don't think that happens as much. But I think it is on the same level, potentially, of popularity as Blade. I think it's in a Blade place.
Oh yeah, that's a good point. We get 3 Daredevil films, and then we only get 1 Spider-Man film.
Okay, it's a long one tonight, folks. Apologies. Go ahead, DJ.
All right, that was only half of that one. He has a second half.
Oh goodness. Okay. All right.
Also, what if Christopher Nolan directed a Star Trek movie?
Well, he'd find some way to make it feel still like James Bond, which I guess is still better than it feeling like Star Wars. So, I'll take that. Yeah. It's hard to say what exactly that would look like. I could kind of see it. I think he would probably use some of the same sensibilities that Wrath of Khan did, that Nicholas Meyer did. He would probably be interested in a real like sardine can intimacy, and make it feel more like a submarine movie and that kind of thing. So like it would be an epic, but it would feel small and close quartered probably. And I imagine it wouldn't be it'd be as much of an action movie as the Batman movies were, you know, probably in like in Inception and something like that. So it would be a visual spectacle. I think he would have a real focus on exploration. Which is why I can't immediately say I don't like the idea of Nolan. I think you'd almost actually. This is so weird. This is such a weird way to put this. I think Nolan, thinking about his sensibilities, thinking about what he did with Interstellar, I think because he's made a space movie now, I think Nolan makes a movie that is somehow a cross, visually and idea-wise, between motion picture and Wrath of Khan. He makes both of those things simultaneously.
And then the dialogue is really muffled.
Yeah, you have no idea what anybody's saying.
Yeah.
But he'd go back to 2001 the same way motion picture did. Absolutely.
Cool.
Yeah, I actually don't hate that. Now that I think about it, I mean, I wouldn't necessarily want him to write it, because I don't like the third act of Interstellar. I haven't seen it in a long time, but it didn't really work for me. But I don't know if he straight up wrote that. I think he did. I think he at least co-wrote that. I don't know. I haven't looked into that in a long time. But it could be okay. We're talking about if Nolan made a Star Trek movie.
I wouldn't see that.
Why not?
I don't know. I'm not the biggest. Well, okay. When does he make it though?
Yeah.
Back when he was good? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
What if he gets Star Trek instead of Batman? I mean, like, if that happens in 2005, it could be great.
It could be great. If it happens in 2014, no.
The era, I'm going to say this. The era I would want Nolan to direct in, I'm sorry, the Star Trek era I would want him to tell a story in would be 22nd century. Nolan directs the Romulan war film, and now you've got something. If he makes it a war movie, think about it. Nolan makes a movie where the characters on the ships don't have view screens and never know what the Romulans look like.
Yeah.
You do a whole movie where your villains are not known to your main characters, and possibly not even to the audience.
Yeah.
You have them in the background the entire time. It's just ships.
Yeah. That's...
And he could tell a really cool, like, logistical war movie. You know, make it all about battle strategy and stuff. And there was supposed to be a trilogy of movies like that were set in the Romulan War period that sounded fantastic. It was written by a guy who did not care about Star Trek, and then when he got the job, I forget who this writer was, but I think he was a novelist, and when he got the job, he did his homework, and he went, well, I've got to make it fit in the continuity of this thing I don't care about, and then he let himself get immersed in it, and it was about a ancestor of or I'm sorry, it was about like an earlier Kirk. And I don't immediately love that idea, but the way he pitches it sounds really good. You can read about this in the 50-Year Mission, by the way. It's in the interviews in that book. He talks about it. And anyway, Nolan directing his films actually sounds kind of perfect.
Yeah.
So if you're curious about knowing what his whole pitch was, go look at the 50-Year Mission. It's the second book. That came out a few years ago, and it's the oral history of Star Trek, and he's interviewed toward the back of that. It's in a chapter about unmade projects, canceled projects. Okay, I didn't hate, but I wasn't in love with this idea until that came up, and now I'm like, oh no, Nolan should have done a Star Trek movie, but it's got to be in the right era. It's got to be 22nd century.
Has to be 22nd century. Well, what about him doing Cardassian and Bajorans? Like, could that work?
Like a follow up to Dominion War, or something.
Or something
to do with the prophets.
Something kind of like that. Like, could that work as well?
Nolan doing a religious movie about alien species that worship an alien as a deity. Yeah, that could work too. Yeah. I don't like it as well, though.
No, I don't like it as well either.
That could work. Your idea is not as good as mine, Jason. But
no, I mean, I actually did like your idea. I was just thinking about other ideas.
I don't mean to be pretentious about it. The reason I'm saying that my idea is much better than your idea is only because of the visuals. Nolan would want to be able to create his own look for it from the ground up, which you can do in 22nd Century in a way you can't for a follow-up to DS9. You would not want somebody to reinvent the look of Star Trek in the late 24th century, which is one of, but not the main of many problems of Picard. Anyway.
But then you run into the problem where he recreates, the look of Star Trek and it just looks like Chicago.
So yeah, he moves Starfleet Academy from San Francisco to Chicago.
John Ty, $2 super chat. What if Matt Smith played Reed Richards in the MCU?
Is that an idea that's been going around, or is that just something that he thinks would be cool?
I don't know.
I don't see it.
Oh, it is something that's going around. Matt Smith responds to Fantastic Forecasting reports through reps.
And says, nope.
His face kind of looks like it's already like halfway through being Mr. Fantasticized. He's got like a very rubbery looking, stretchy face, so I can see why people...
Fantasticized? Because it's a word now and I love it.
I can see it, man. He has got a very long face. I don't know who this guy is. I don't think I've ever seen him.
So Matt Smith is the 11th Doctor in Doctor Who.
Oh, okay.
Oh!
And
that Matt Smith.
And I don't know.
Wait.
I haven't seen him in anything in a long time. Well, he shows up in isn't he the bad guy in Morbius? I think he's in that. One of the doctors in that. I think it's him. That's the last thing I've seen him in a while, and he's one of the only things that like half elevates that material. But so yeah, being a little bit older now, maybe. I have this baby face in my head with him, and I can't really see it. But yeah,
he definitely doesn't have a baby face anymore. He's got a very distinguished face.
Okay, I mean, I'm open to it.
At least these pictures I'm seeing.
Be another Brit having to fake an American accent, although. An English Reed Richards, I don't immediately hate. I'm not totally against that.
Well, our last one was, or not our last one, but our one before that.
Well, he was still doing an American accent.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, would you be okay with a Reed Richards that is from England and just moved to New York?
I have to think about it, but I don't immediately see any reason why he has to be super New York-y.
That's what I'm saying. Or would it just feel like too much of a cliche where, oh, he's a brilliant scientist, so he has to have an English accent?
Yeah. Matt Smith also played Skynet in Terminator Genisys.
Oh, I didn't even remember that. I didn't remember that Skynet had a face in that. Oh, okay. Daniver says, I can't remember how to pronounce his name anymore. Is it Grufford?
I have no idea.
He was Welsh, not English. Oh, okay.
Can you just respond to all the comments like that? Okay.
Okay.
Let's split hairs. He was from over there someplace. He's got an accent. Wendell. Oh, Wendell's here. Hi, Wendell. He says, what about Reed Richards with a drunk Scottish accent? Wendell is one of my writers in the writers group, and we have this. I hope it doesn't mind me telling you guys about this. We have this ongoing joke in my workshop where whenever we read a screenplay, people submit screenplays, and I always have a couple of people. I always cast a couple of our writers to read a couple pages, and anytime we cast Wendell, he almost always reads whatever the part is in a drunk Scottish accent.
Yeah, dude, just have Colin Farrell's character from Banshees of Inisherin play Reed Richards. It'd be amazing. Now Now I just want to watch Banshees again. It's such a good movie. Let me see what we got here. Mutale again.
We are trying to wrap it up, folks.
Cap, what if you were a furry?
I'm trying to figure out how to make this sound like there's a question mark at the end of it.
Well, this doesn't qualify as a what if, Mutale, because in order for it to be a what if, Cap would have to not be a furry now.
Oh. That's an excellent point. I can't say that with a straight face. So are you just trying to find the most, like, look at the color of Jason's face right now. It's like you're trying to find the most embarrassing possible question to ask me in front of my son. So if that happened, I'm not even going to dignify it by saying the thing you said. If that happened, my wife would divorce me. Mm-hmm. Jason, right? She should.
She wouldn't be on board.
No, I don't think so. No, that's where she's okay with the 10 tattoos, but I think that's where she'd draw the line.
She turned around on the tattoos, so who knows? Who knows?
Yeah, no, I don't think that would really work out. If that it would have to be a complete secret nobody knew about.
Would you go to conventions?
Closeted furries, the best.
Yeah, but in a mask the whole time.
Right.
You know, like nobody would ever see me. Like, you know, you'd have to do it practically. I'm sure he'd want to know what kind I would be.
Right. What?
Are there different kinds? I'm so out of the loop.
No, like what animal?
What would the animal be?
What would the animal be?
I mean, sadly,
I'm a frog.
Velociraptors don't have fur. Do you have to have fur?
I think it's just animals. I think it's just
be any animal. Okay, well then I'd be a velociraptor.
No, that would actually, yeah.
They tried having other sections called scalies and skinnies, but it didn't catch on. So furries is just a blanket term.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that second thing just makes you sound anorexic.
Oh man, but you could be a scaly. You could be a.
Yeah, that just sounds like something out of Batman Beyond. You know, where you're just splicing.
Velociraptors. You'd be a velociraptor, of course.
The closest I'll ever come is if I ever get a raptor tattoo.
Mm-hmm.
Which I've talked about eventually doing. I still have too many ideas for tattoos I want to get, and only so much skin I'm willing to do that with. So, you know.
Oh yeah, Alex Barron says dinosaurs had feathers, so that's kind of furry.
Well, I had that thought, but it's not fur though. It's still feathers. They both start with the letter F though.
So we're in business.
How many more super chats do we have? Because the faster we can get away from this topic.
Oh man, unfortunately we have 5 more. I wish this was our last one so we could really delve into it.
You want to end on that note. All right, moving right along.
Donnie St. Pierre, $5 super chat. What are some writing rituals you have? Anything you need to have / do when writing fiction? If not, maybe describe your general process.
You got 2. There you go. I didn't wait to the end.
Well, every question mark I think gets a gong. That's how it works.
No.
So the first thing I have to admit is that I have not regularly written in a good long time, and it's kind of driving me crazy. Actually, I don't feel like myself when I'm not writing, and it's been difficult to get back into the swing of it. Since I had about a year where I physically did not have time to do it. And I was working on the script for the Superhero Rewind movie, which I'm going to try to get back to this weekend. And that was going okay. I kind of hit a wall with it, and I'm going to try to get past that wall. I'm going to try to break through that wall. I'm going to try to get the power to go through walls and break through that wall this weekend. But
to the government.
But anyway, so I will say I'm rusty on this. But typically, as far as rituals, like some writers do have, like, you know, silly little quirks, things they have to do when they sit down to write. It's a thing that Stephen King deals with in Misery. Where there's, at least with, like, that guy, when he finishes a book, he's got a ritual, but he also has, like, only a certain place that he writes at. He's got to be in front of a window, all of that. I like to write in the dark, like almost pitch black at this point. I've changed a lot from what I used to do. When I was younger, I used to always have music on. And I used to only write to They Might Be Giants. I don't know if you knew that. But when I was in high school, college, I only wrote to They Might Be Giants. I get more distracted now than I used to. So these days, I either write with no music at all, which is weird. I didn't used to be able to do that. I used to not like silence. I like silence now in a way I didn't used to. I will write to either nothing or there's a couple of Steel albums that I write really well to, but it depends on what I'm writing. So like, again, I haven't finished this either, but when I was working on my Zordon project, I was writing to that a lot. And it's different things for different projects. When I was doing the food novel, I don't think I wrote to much of anything. I think that was pretty much quiet most of the time. But that's about it for rituals. I write on a laptop now more often. I used to write at my desk. I don't feel as productive when I write here. There's too many distractions. I like to get I got too much clutter. I got too many collectibles everywhere. I like to be in a kind of empty dark room.
You got to be in the bathroom
right now. I've written videos in the bathroom.
Really?
Yeah, believe it or not. Yep. Like on my phone. A couple of videos that I
see if you guys can figure out.
I know you wrote videos like in the car.
I have written videos in the car. Yeah, it's been a long time. Then of course, again, not scripted right now, so I haven't written anything lately. But yeah. So that, and then general process is I pick a particular time after everybody's gone to bed at night, and I write for 2 hours or 1,000 words, whichever comes first. And so if I only get 700 words done in 2 hours, I can stop. But
like whenever you finish a sentence, you're like, all right, gotta go to tools, figure out how
word
many
checking,
like word count.
No, these days your Word document usually at the bottom of the page constantly tells you how many words it is.
Really?
Yeah. There's a counter right at the bottom that'll say how many you've written. I did used to occasionally do that. I like to know how many.
On my tablet it does that, but when I go to like Google Docs on my thingy thing, although I know you do like Microsoft Word, but like I always have to go to tools and like.
By the way, pro tip, particularly if you're trying to write a novel, but even if you want to know how long your short story is or whatever, if you don't already, get to thinking about it in terms of word count, not page count, because page count is really arbitrary. It doesn't really tell you anything, because the way it's going to be published, if you put it, physically in print, or even if it's an ebook or something, page count doesn't really tell you anything. There's a lot of different sorts of formats. But word count is the same however you slice it. So like your average novel is anywhere between 80 to 100,000 words. Your average novella is 30 to 40. 20 is or maybe even closer to 50 sometimes. Like novella to novel, it depends on who you ask. And then a short story is anywhere between 10 20,000 words typically.
Utali says, by the way, nice legs, Cap.
Oh yeah, thanks. I'm getting comfortable now. I'm ready for this show to end.
Shift C. I got anything here.
Gotta remember that, Jason.
Yeah.
All right, Vitale, another 35 South African Rand super chat. What if Matthew Broderick was cast as Walter White instead of Bryan Cranston?
Was that a thing that almost happened? Or are we just throwing out random... I don't see it at all. That sounds bizarre.
But if you had known Bryan Cranston from Malcolm in the Middle when it started, you would have said the same thing. But I still don't see it.
No, here's the thing, though. That is, as everybody knows, a show about a transformation from a character who doesn't think very much of himself and who's real kind of nerdy and mousy, who turns into basically Lex Luthor. And I don't see that with Broderick. Like I don't see him playing the high school, the pathetic pushover high school science teacher. Like,
watch Election. He plays that exact role, and it's amazing.
Oh, is that right? Okay, I guess I've just not seen enough from him. It's also a problem sometimes with roles like that where it's hard to imagine anybody else playing that because it was invented so much by one guy. Like I don't see what that looks like on paper without Cranston. So.
Yeah, Election is a Criterion movie. It's a high school comedy from 1999.
Okay. I'm clearly not qualified to answer this.
With Reese Witherspoon as like the teacher's pet, like straight A student, class president, and they're like going against each other. It's a really dark comedy.
Alex Barron says word count matters for novels, page count matters for screenplays since it's a rigid format. Yeah, absolutely. That is true. And you can get a sense of almost exactly how long your feature will be in minute count, assuming that you give enough white space in with a screenplay.
Oh. But there's a second part of that question.
Because it's supposed to be a 1-to-1 ratio. So 1 page is supposed to be 1 minute of film. So if you write a 90-page screenplay, it should be about a 90-minute movie. And that's part of the problem I'm having with my screenplay right now for the Superhero Rewind movie, is it is writing a lot longer than I expected it to. So I'm like 52 pages in, and where I am story-wise is about where I thought I'd be, like more like 30 pages in. So I can tell a lot of cutting is going to have to happen. And that's frustrating to me because I'm lazy and I don't want to do a second draft. With this, I certainly will. Spawn Year was a thing that was so rushed that I hardly ever had multiple drafts of anything with that. Well, I didn't have multiple drafts of the episodes themselves hardly at all because it was all handwritten. So I wasn't even able to make a lot of changes with that. It was the worst and dumbest way to make a thing.
Yeah, Cap can no longer even write in a notebook anymore. He's too scarred from that experience.
Kind of.
He even scribbled in it.
I couldn't hardly write. I couldn't hardly write with a keyboard for the first 2 years after that. I actually wrote. I don't know if I think I mentioned this before on. I know you know this, DJ, but I wrote a few of the old scripted rewinds right after Spawn Year by hand.
Yeah. Jeez.
Had to. I just couldn't get in a rhythm. Like I felt like I was writing too slow with a keyboard. I just got really used to writing with pen. I slowed myself down so much to do that I couldn't do. Anyway, we got to finish up here. Go ahead.
I think you should change the answer though. Every time someone says, "Why do you only live stream now?" you should say what you just said and said, "Because there's no second draft."
That's exactly right.
Utale, the second half of that question was also Cap, what if you could be paid to give good reviews?
I wouldn't do it.
Shill Cap.
I simply wouldn't do it.
Captain Shill.
No, the closest I ever came...
Easiest question we've got all night.
Well, there was a time where I was doing... I'm trying to decide if I want to talk about this. There was a time where I was promoting comics I was promoting a comic shop real early on. Some of you guys will remember this. And the guy I was working for, and I made no bones out of I was working there, and they were sponsoring me, and he didn't really want like critical negative reviews of comics, so I only talked about things I liked with those, and I made them much more recommendation-y than review-ish, and I don't think I would even do that again, but that's the closest I ever came to that. And I don't think I sugarcoated what I was doing, but I didn't pull punches. I just didn't review things that I didn't like, which kind of sucked because you'd get halfway through a comic and it would be terrible, and you'd be like, "Well, I can't review this," and so you wouldn't do it. But yeah.
All right. Next up, we have Donnie St. Pierre, $5. What if I realized that we were doing what ifs when I sent my last super chat?
Well, then you wouldn't have asked this question, that's for sure.
Yeah, and you wouldn't have asked the question about writing, which is
and you
actually
wouldn't
pretty insightful. So.
You wouldn't have got to talk about your music rituals.
Or do you just mean the question was insightful, but not so much the answer?
No, the answer.
Oh, okay, thanks. It's a really insightful question. What Dad said, I don't know. Not so much.
Another one from... Oh, no, this is our first one from T-Edge1 tonight. $2. What if Walt Disney never died and still ran it Urok?
Well, he'd be a head in a jar. Goodbye, Jason. We appreciate you being in the program, man. I'm sorry it went so long.
Good night. Sleep tight.
Oh, we're already 2.5 hours. I'm sorry, guys. We'll get this wrapped up.
Yeah, I don't know what he means. What if he never died? He would have died eventually.
Yeah.
It's not.
I mean, if it was possible for him to run the company forever and be immortal or put his consciousness in a computer, the company would be in better shape than it is. I mean, clearly. I can't think of a more interesting answer than just there's a lot of compromises and things that have happened that I don't think he would have let happen. However you feel about the man and how he conducted his business.
I need to read more about this. I don't know enough about him and the history there to know like what the differences would be specifically.
I don't think Disney would have even gotten as big as a company as they are. I don't know that he would want to buy out all these other companies necessarily. It's hard to say. But I don't know that they'd be making superhero films.
It's a weird question because it's not like he died young. He died 65.
That's true. But it's probably just if he was still in charge, what would it be like, versus what it is now? I don't think. I mean, Disney was certainly corporate when he died, but I don't think it would be like it is now. I don't think they'd be putting bomb after bomb out.
Yeah, it's tough to say. He died in the 60s, and the 70s was a big dip for them. So yeah.
I'm not saying they wouldn't have their ups and downs, but if they were bombing right now, it'd be because they were taking risks on things people hadn't heard of, not the wrong kinds of risks on franchises that they don't have anything to say with.
Yeah.
And if he did let that company buy Star Wars, they'd be being more creative with it, and they'd be making things that felt more like, I don't know, Star Wars.
What we got? Mutale. What if Jason did his version of Spawn Year?
Ooh. I mean, if I made it instead of Dad, I'd probably make it more story-based, and probably make it so that there was something story-wise happening every episode, instead of it just being a review thing. It would still be a review show, because that's what Spawn Year is. Also, I don't think the reviews would be as good.
Thanks, man. But I mean, maybe when you're the age I was when I made it,
Yeah. I've also had an idea because I had a question. I had a question in my head, a couple months ago, that was what if?
So right at the start of the show.
No. What if?
A couple months ago.
What if? What if Spawn Year had Disney Plus type sequel TV shows? And so I made up.
You want to make one?
The idea for a Tiny Adam West show where we find out he's not actually a figment of Captain Logan's imagination, and Tiny Adam West was actually a clone of Jason, of me, where he also got brought into it somehow, and he's also stuck there, but he never got out.
Oh, and so what? He was just taking it out on me?
Yeah, I guess.
Is it
so.
Simultaneous? Is he also reviewing SpawnCon, but nobody knows? But then he has also control over some of what's going on in the alleyway? I don't even know how that works.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's a funny idea, though.
Yeah. I never actually...
He's not reviewing Spawn comics, he's reviewing different types of Mountain Dew.
Yeah.
And it turns out that he's actually standing in 2 feet of Mountain Dew in his trash can. That long ago dissolved his pants.
Yeah.
And he's just can't leave it. He's just stuck in the soda. Yeah, you should make that. Okay, moving right along.
Last super chat so far that we have.
Great. Well, yeah. I'm going to ask you guys not to put any more in because we've got to wrap up here. But thanks, guys. Appreciate you. Go ahead, DJ.
Big Bad Harv 95. Hey Cap, the X-Files 30th anniversary is this year. Any plans for anything special, like a watch party of favorite episodes, perhaps?
Well, it's the 20th and 30th anniversary of a bazillion things, and there are several other things that I've been wanting to do watch parties and commentaries for, but thanks for reminding me about that, because that was one of the things on my list. And Austin had never seen X-Files, and I think he finally watched the pilot and maybe some of the first season not too long ago, and was liking it okay, I think, if memory serves. You'll have to remind me, Austin, if you're listening to this. I can't remember if you did that, but I think you did. But yeah, I would love to do that. I'm not sure what episodes we'd do. That's one of those weird shows where I've seen almost all of it, and every time I go back and watch it, I don't remember anything that happens. Does not stick with me. I like it a lot until it gets bad. But yeah, no, I definitely would like to do that, and October would be a good time for that. You know, we'll do that closer to Halloween.
The only thing I know about X-Files is the band episode. I've read like the write-up of that, and it sounds horrifying.
The band episode.
Yeah, band, not like a band, like BANNED. Like the episode that they weren't allowed to do for whatever reason. I got down a rabbit hole and read that.
No, I didn't know about that.
Horrifying.
Crazy.
I've gone down rabbit holes with band episodes before.
I don't recommend reading that one.
Of course you have.
That was nightmare fuel.
Yeah, Robert, we'd probably do the Bryan Cranston episode. That's a good idea. And maybe we do the causality loop episode because it's funny. There's an episode in season 6 where there's a bank that just keeps blowing up.
Is that what keeps happening?
Yeah, it's a bank that blows up constantly, and Mulder keeps trying to stop the bank from blowing up. And then it blows up, and then he wakes up the next day, and he's in his water bed, and his water bed keeps overflowing, and he's got it's great.
I've been wanting to watch that episode.
We'll do it. It's great. All right, well, folks, thanks a lot for watching. This was an extra long one, so you're welcome and sorry, depending on who you are. But Jason and I will be back again tomorrow night for a watch party. We're going to do some Star Trek for you. Jason has picked 3 episodes from different series, and hopefully you'll be able to watch that with us. If you've got Paramount Plus without commercials, you'll be able to watch that with us. It sucks that it's not on Netflix and other places anymore, but that's the only way to do it now. And anyway, that's what we're going to do next time I'm here. Well, except Austin and I are going to do a request tonight in just a little while right after this for the few of you guys that will care. And I don't know what I'm going to have to say about that, but we're going to talk about it because somebody requested it and I watched it and read it, and we'll talk about it anyway. But that's going to be I say watched and read because it's the comic adaptation of Metal Gear Solid, and there is a motion comic version with the voices of the original cast, and I watched that. So I read some of the comic, but then I went ahead and did the rest of it that way, which is the better way to consume it. And we're going to talk about that. We'll see how much of it I can remember. Anyway, thanks a lot for watching, folks, and we will see you again real soon. And DJ, thanks for staying late. I hope you had a good time, man.
Oh, yeah, I'd always have fun. I just got to go get some sleep because my son started kindergarten this week, so we've been getting up at 6:15 every morning. So I'm going to go.
Oh, goodness. You got to rush off.
Yeah.
This was a fun one. These were tough. I mean, I really did feel like I was back in school taking a test I had not studied for.
Yeah, it was tough. It was tough. I think you were using your brain so hard you didn't even notice that I switched into my shirt for you to color in on the break.
Oh my goodness, I didn't notice that. It should have driven me insane.
But you were so focused on those questions.
I wish I had a black and white version of this shirt.
Yeah.
By the way, people sometimes ask me where this came from. This is from Universal Studios.
Yeah, people were commenting on that. People were being like, "Oh man, I really wanted that shirt, but it was too expensive."
Yeah, I spent too much on it. I think this is like a $30, $35 shirt, but it was such a good shirt, I couldn't help it, and it was one of the only things I bought when I was at Universal. But Jason and I went there last year, Universal Studios in Florida, and this is a shirt that you can get at the Spider-Man ride, which is based on the 90s show, and it's still there,
great.
and it's one of the coolest rides I've ever been on. It's wonderful. But this is what it looks like on the back, and it says Universal Studios on it. And
it's interesting because I have a Spider-Man shirt that I got from Universal Studios a long time ago that is a similar thing. It's also like a silhouette, but he's in like the McFarlane squatting pose, not a jumping pose like that. So they must have added that shirt later.
Yeah, well, this is the main one that's there. I don't know if the one you're talking about is, so maybe they replaced it.
Oh, probably. This was a long time ago. I think I got this.
This also feels like a somewhat McFarlane
High school.
pose.
Yeah. I love the silhouette. I love Spider-Man in silhouette. It looks cool. Or not even a silhouette.
Well,
Like
the eyes really pop.
Yeah, I have to wear mine sometime. It's kind of the same thing. It's just got the red lines, but in his eyes.
Anyway, well, we'll see you later, folks. Thanks for being here. I was Captain Logan. This is Jason.
That was me.
And DJ the DJ. Bye, everybody.
Play the music. I look stupid.